And alright folks, whoops, fix me hat. Welcome to another episode of 420 News. Hopefully everybody, jeez, tongue tied there. Hopefully everybody is doing mighty fine out there, guys. Where's Mishka? Jeez, the cotton mode, and I haven't even got started, and it's wow. Who's out there in the audience already? Quick start to today's show. I didn't manage to get a scheduled stream or start it up early, so welcome everybody as you hop on into the hot box. Hopefully you're all hot boxing out there. I see Monsieur says, "I'll still in work, I'll be there in spirit." Hopefully you had a nice lunch break anyway, at least, Monsieur. And likewise, when you finish up, hopefully there's going to be something nice and green waiting for you once you get home. Turn the vibrate off on this thing before she drives me mad. Boom. Who else is out there? Nope. What's going on? Nope. Happy Wednesday, dude. You're going to miss it, man. That's going to Monsieur there, I'd imagine. Hunter as well. What's happening out there, Hunter? Absolute legend of a guy. DB Woodcraft as well. An amazingly talented individual. Jesus, like the community around this show is it's made up of some incredible individuals out there, guys, and it's an absolute honour to know and to have met many of you so far, and I look forward to continue to meeting many more of you as well into the not too distant future. Sweet. And just double checking to make sure my audio was actually working there as well. Lee, what's going on? Welcome to the Hotbox, Lee. Hunter says 2 hours 40 minutes to go on this coconut oil. Nice. I actually dosed up on a little bit of coconut oil and cannabis oil there myself earlier today as well. Yes, and I suppose just on that, just to bring people up to speed on stuff and to just let you delve a little bit more deeper into Martin's world. I shared with you maybe last week and the week before about the medication I was getting to treat my seizures, the Keppra. Well, that just got a bit too much to handle at the weekend, and since Saturday now I've stopped actually taking the Keppra, the anti-seizure medication. And don't be too alarmed out there, guys. You know, it's not a decision I made lightly. You know, I was very much afraid of stopping the medication, but to be very honest, the side effects were just getting too much to bear, you know, not only for myself but for others around me as well. It was just getting a bit daunting. So for me, I just called it a day on that one. So I'm in the process now of reaching back out to my consultant. So hopefully I'll be able to get an appointment there sooner rather than later with my consultant. And I'm just going to be saying, look, what have you got for me next? Because this Keppra, to be very honest, it's causing me suicidal ideation. It's causing me to have these flash anger, you know, very wild mood swings. So it's not a pleasant experience at all. So we'll see if they're going to try me on a new medication, or if it's at all possible for them to just do, which I would like for them to do, and to work with me with the medical cannabis. I would very much like to be able to be prescribed medical cannabis of a high quality, of a consistency that a patient deserves in order to effectively treat their condition and to mitigate these potentially fatal seizures that I suffer from time to time as part of my epilepsy. You know, and I suppose just on that note then, as we're talking about, you know, the way in which patients are treated here in Ireland is in regards to getting access to cannabis. You know, the Medical Cannabis Access Programme, which was launched, I don't know about, Jesus, God only knows how long ago they launched it, but it was only in the last year or two, a patient, I think, has gotten access under the Medical Cannabis Access Programme. But that basically requires me as a patient to have to try all of the other drugs before I could be considered an eligible candidate. And those drugs failing as well, might I add, before I'm an eligible candidate for medical cannabis in Ireland. So that's just not good enough. As I said, the side effects I've experienced there with the Keppra was not at all pleasant. And to be very honest, like... had I continued it, you know, I don't know how much longer I would have lasted. These mental battles that were going on, these thoughts that were just completely unnatural to my mind. You know, it's I don't know how much more I could have taken with it. So that's just not good enough. Cannabis for myself as a patient, the side effects, if you call them that, they're manageable. You know, getting the munchies. I can deal with that. You know, experience and maybe euphoria, I can deal with that. Suicidal thoughts, though, as part of the Keprot treatment, as part of what they want me to be trying before cannabis, no, no, thank you. So yes, as part of that, I've been taking coconut oil blended with some cannabis oil in capsule form. Again, it's not what you want to be working with as a patient. As I said, you want to be getting high quality, consistent medication to be able to treat your condition effectively. But under the model of prohibition, where patients are forced to actually take matters into their own hands at times, you're not able to get that consistency. And then, potentially going down the road, you might be successfully managing it with the first batch of cannabis oil, maybe even the second batch or third batch. It could be the fourth batch then of cannabis oil. It might be just that much different. It might be a little bit less potent maybe than what you were getting all along. It might contain different terpenes, and then activates your seizures again. Whereas if I was working with health professionals, I would be getting a consistent medicine of a reliable quality, that I could depend on and I could be happy with. And the health professionals could be, maybe effectively gathering data as to what works for epilepsy patients and what potentially doesn't work. I don't know, but current system doesn't work at the moment. And on that, Foxworthy Farms, I don't know if you see that there. Look, I'll move the mic. Foxworthy. Actually, I have a... merchandise everywhere. There's actually dust on this one because it was on the desk for quite some time. But Foxworthy Farms, guys, and that's a little segue there to the sponsors of the Patients for Safe Access, their upcoming conference. So that's coming up there on the 11th of June, guys. Just going to pop this up on screen there now for you all to see. But the sponsors for that are Foxworthy Farms and Oleo. So Foxworthy Farms, guys, owned and run by a Cork man, Martin O'Brien. You might have seen his video. We played it there last week, and he's undeniably a Cork man. He's kindly helped to sponsor the Patients for Safe Access through Foxworthy Farms, and he's also one of the directors as well of Patients for Safe Access. So he's based over in the Sonoma Valley, probably more famous for the wine, but in the not too distant future it's probably going to be even more famous for the cannabis coming out of there. But he's based over there in California, and he's grown up with cannabis away to his heart's content, providing it through the Berkeley Patients Care Collective and Foxworthy Farms then as well. So he's doing some tremendous work over there. Then Oleo, guys, Oleo Care, they're based here in Ireland, and they're approved medical cannabis suppliers to the Irish market, and they're thankfully it's much appreciated. I'm just popping up on screen there now. There we go. Sorry, I got a bit distracted there. But yeah, we're very appreciative of their support as well for this the Patients for Safe Access National Conference. So Oleo Care, which their CEO here, Richard Cray, is going to be one of the speakers there as well on the day. So that's June 11th above in Dublin at the Sugar Club. Guys, tickets are still available, and again, as I said, guys, if the price for the ticket is a barrier for you to attending, do by all means get in contact with me, and I'll ensure that your name goes down on a guest list for you to attend this. I don't know how many tickets are remaining, or if there is any remaining, but as I said, if there is tickets remaining, and if the I think it's €10 for the ticket for the or 11 something actually with the fees. Now that I think of it. If that's too much of a barrier, by all means, guys, don't be embarrassed at all. Get in contact. I know what it's like to be financially unstable and stuff like that. I've been on the fucking dole. I've been on the back to education there as well while in college. I've been living off of limited means of income there for quite some time. So I know what it's like to have that financial pressure. So don't let it be a barrier for you coming to this. So do get in touch, and I'll do my best there to get you in if there's tickets remaining, as I said. Other speakers there on the day as well. So we have Richard Cray from Oleo. Then also we have Stephen Garland, who you might remember as a guest on the podcast in the past. Stephen Garland suffers with multiple sclerosis, the chronic pain type, I think. I can't recall now. he's got the one that's not included on a medical cannabis access program. That's how I remember it. So the medical cannabis access program actually differentiates between medical or multiple sclerosis patients. So those who suffer with multiple sclerosis but don't have spasticity, I believe they're excluded. So they suffer just with chronic pain, and multiple sclerosis patients who've got spasticity as part of their condition, they're included on their medical cannabis access program, which again, it's just not good enough. So Stephen Garland, he's been a guest on the podcast. He talked about this in depth in the past, but he's going to be one of the speakers there on the 11th of June as well, above in the Sugar Club in Dublin. Again, sponsored by Oleo and Medical Cannabis and Foxworthy Farms. Nice little video. Don't know if we got rights to this music, so we're going to pop that off. So there you go. You've seen a number of the speakers popping up there. Many of these people have been on the podcast in the past. Others might be new to you. But again, on June 11th, you'll be getting to know these people a little bit more anyway if you're in attendance. Go on, Alan. Join the movement to help shape a better future for Ireland's patients who need safe access to cannabis. See you there. Foxworthy. So there you go, guys. I don't need to go through any more of these guests there, as you would have seen them pop up there in that video, and others you would have seen here on the podcast in the past. Sorry, we popped that one down. So June 11th, guys. I hope, hopefully many of you have already got that one in your calendar. And again, big thanks to Foxworthy Farms and Oleo. Guys, Oleo as well. I had a meeting with the CEO of Oleo. I've talked to him privately in the past, and I hope he doesn't mind me talking about what we spoke about, at least I won't go too in depth about it, but the difficulty he has met as a medical cannabis provider to Ireland, from the authorities here, the gatekeepers, if you will, the people between the medical cannabis providers and the patients. These people, they've made it very, very difficult. So hopefully Richard will talk more about that above there on June 11th. I don't want to go too in depth into what we talked about there in the day, as I don't know how much was kind of like off the record, but all I have to say is that I was absolutely disgusted walking away from that meeting in the authorities here in Ireland, the gatekeepers, because of the way, the contempt in which they look at medical cannabis and medical cannabis patients with. It's ridiculous. It's sickening. It really is. Guys, see lots more of you after hopping into the hot box, guys. Welcome everybody. I see Bobby out there. Nice one, Bobby. Nice to see you here in the live stream. Bobby all the way across the pond there in the great US of A. He says, I want to meet Green Tea. Well, hopefully you've seen the interview in the past there, Bobby. Green Tea was an absolutely excellent guest. I really enjoyed my conversation with her, and like you said, you want to meet with her. I've had the pleasure of actually sitting down and being in the company of Green Tea, and what a pleasure that was too. I didn't think I would enjoy her company more than what I enjoyed the interview, but yeah, she blew me away. An absolute legend of a woman. Content NL, what's going on? Says, what's happening, stoners? Yes, stoner, I'm proud. Yes, I am. Just mashed 2 ounces of trim into the coconut oil. Nice one, Hunter. Nice one. Enjoy the ride. Says, fair play for making the call on that, Martin. Hopefully you get everything sorted as soon as possible. Yeah, fingers crossed, fingers crossed, as I said. It wasn't an easy call to make, stopping the medication, but as I said, it was one I was battling with for a couple of weeks, and it was just came today, enough was enough. Couldn't take much more, and I have to say, guys, I'm now like 5 days off of that medication, and I've not experienced a single mood swing. My mood has been incredibly lifted, and even saying that, over the last couple of days, I've not had as much cannabis that I'd normally have access to, and even without cannabis, it's my mood is still nice and stable. So I reckon that Capra was problematic. Possible interaction there with cannabis, I don't know, but I looked it up online. There's no known interactions between cannabis and Keppra, but an interesting thing I did learn, actually, and this is probably boring for you and that have no use of bit of useless information for you, but Keppra is known to interact with the calcium ion channels and the GABA receptors, which cannabinoids are also known to interact with. So there is a potential there for some cross interaction. But again, this is what we're stuck with in Ireland as under the model prohibition. Says, no, scary as fuck, man. Please reach out if your dude is not on board to someone else. Yeah, I'll certainly explore that one as well. But, you kind of got limited means here in terms of healthcare in Ireland with these consultants. It's quite hard to get a meeting with them. My next appointment is the 23rd of June, I believe. So I'm trying to get it a bit sooner, but even that's proven difficult with my current consultant. What's happening, Mr. Finnegan? Welcome to the Hotbox. Welcome, Wooly, as well. Leroy Brown out there too. What's happening? Sean, what's happening? Sean, that stuff fucked up my system. Martin, glad you're off it. Well, sorry to hear about that with your sister. I've heard it from other people, I talked with Kenny Tynan. I've talked with Teresa, who's often commented here in the Hotbox too. And they shared with me negative experiences they had themselves or with their partners who used this drug, and wasn't good to hear back, and they're quite happy to dish the stuff out then. And meanwhile, when you look up the stuff about Keppra and how it works, like when I was Googling it and looking at scientific studies, they actually don't know how it works. The evidence they have that it works is just based off of trials where it's like, all right, we have a population with it and a population without it. The population with it did good and the population without it did bad. So therefore it must be good. That was kind of it. Like, there were side effects and stuff like that there as well. We report that, we'll stick it on the label, but it's all good. But there was some positive out of it. Like, meanwhile, when you do the same with cannabis, it's like, not enough, It's like that. Do you ever see that meme with the dude and he's just kind of like, looking away like, no. And then he's like, pointing at it. That's what's coming to mind right now when I think of this. When it comes to Keppra, it's just like, oh yeah, those studies are great. Like, but when you do the same studies with cannabis, it's like, no, it's not enough. Like, no. We can't be hearing that. Like, fucking airs are blocked. Oh man, it's a fucked up system. It really is. Like, but you know what? To be very optimistic here, I think there's light at the end of the tunnel. Jesus, I think that's a terrible fucking analogy to use or phrase to use there actually. But I think there's good times ahead as some of the news we're covering here in the show is definitely showing that there's a change in the horizon for us. That's a more apt that's a more apt phrase to use. Change on the horizon. Salazmine Digital, what's happening? Says Blind Boy retweeted a Patients for Safe Access conference video. Good at you, Blind Boy. Nice one. Nice to see some support out there for safe access to cannabis for patients in Ireland. So hopefully that continues to happen as well. Hopefully we get some more Irish celebrities behind that. Hazmat58 says, hey Martin, got a beautiful drawn J in the post. Nice. Made me very happy. It really was beautifully drawn. Excellent stuff. So one of the prize winners there in the comments, nice one as well for Hazmat for always been holding down the fort over on Twitch. Absolute legend. But yes, those J's, they were beautifully drawn by a very talented artist here, my very own Alexis. Thanks very much, Alexis. And I suppose I never alluded to it when showing the J's there the last day on the screen, but those J's were actually drawn on the back of my bail docket from court. So, like the carbon copy of the bail docket I got. So I ripped that bitch in half. And Alexis then on the back of them drew some very nice J's for us. And the prize winners were very happy with those J's. So both J's safely touched down. They weren't interfered with, because of the pricelessness of the artwork that was done there on that. A court docket belonging to the Martin Condon. Cannabis activist of the year as well, might I add. Like not just in Ireland, apparently globally. Nice one to everyone who helped make that happen. So maybe those things could be worth something in the not too distant future, maybe. But otherwise, it's just a cool little thing to have anyway, because Alexis is a legend and she's a great drawer. Hope you're feeling better, Martin. I am, Bobby, as I said there. I'm feeling much better. Thanks very much. And I have to give a big shout out as well. I'm absolutely, I talked about it as well. You're all incredible individuals out there, guys. I'm honoured to have you as an audience. But like, I received like a gift in the post there earlier today, and like, I don't know if you know what this is, but this is like a lovely little piece of hash. There we go. Focus. Lovely piece of hash. Smells beautiful and all. I think on that note, I might blaze one up. But yes, to the individual who made this happen, you're an absolute hero. So we pack up some of this lovely hash here now. Sorry, I was probably saying something then there, but I got distracted by the hash. Hey, what's happening? I see. Well, where's that username just after disappearing to? Stop my PPMS. Where'd you go? Oh no, it's not. It's Edzer. He has PPMS. So PP. I'm not too sure what the PP stands for, Edzer, but multiple sclerosis anyway. Yeah. Do you know what? I'm just going to try to educate myself. You're probably going to put it into the thing in a second, but PPMS. Primary progressive. Ah, yes, that's what Stephen Garland had, the PPMS. Yes, that's right. That's what Stephen Garland's Twitter handle was. I think stop my PPMS. I think was the name of it. Edzer, I think you might have already seen my conversation with Stephen Garland. And I know because of the war now ongoing over in Ukraine that the potential to travel there is going to be much more difficult. But Stephen Garland travelled to Russia. He got some kind of controversial, experimental, I don't know what the correct term to be used, treatment done over there. And like because of that, you know, his 6-month diagnosis from being able to walk to being in a wheelchair, the guy is still walking, Edzer. So I don't know if you know much about that. I can't, right, like, and forgive me, Steve, for not remembering. I can't remember what the name of the treatment he got was. He only tweeted about it there actually as well the other day, you know, in relation to patients he knows who might have been heading over there to get some treatment done in Russia, not being able to travel there now because of travel restrictions and all of that crap. But yeah, it's another knock-on effect of this fucking war, isn't it? Fucking condemn wars everywhere, including the bloody war on drugs. But yeah, Edzer, I'm not too sure if you've seen that, but if you didn't, check it out. And I'm sure Stephen Garland, there's his name, is very approachable as well if you need any more advice on that. Sean, nice, read that one there, sorry. Bobby O'Brien says, get Ming on again. That guy is my favourite. I will indeed. That's nice one for the request there, Bobby. I'll certainly reach out to Ming. I don't know what happened to me actually above in the park there when I was above in Phoenix Park. Luke Ming Flanagan, Gino Kenny were both above in the park at the same time. And I don't know, I just got too interactive with everybody else around me, and I never went over to the Ming and Gino, and I wanted to sit down with them for a couple of minutes on camera, smoke a doobie while chatting with them and see if I could pass it to them and get them to have a puff on camera as well. But unfortunately, I just as I said, got too distracted above there in Phoenix Park. But I'll certainly reach out to Luke Ming and see if we can arrange something for the not too distant future. And there's some incredible friendships as well being made here in this community, I have to add. You know, Green Tea there and Bobby. I think Green Tea and Hunter as well. I think Hanneman and Hunter. I think, you know, there's a couple of people there from around Ireland, and they're not too far from each other, and they're all making acquaintances here, you know, through the hot box. You know, people who would have maybe found it difficult in the past to find like-minded individuals. They're finding them here in Martin's World in the hot box, and they're making forever friends. It's great. I love it. Touching my heart, guys. Bobby O'Brien says, we are Corkbound next year. Nice, excellent. Yes, I know you didn't make it down this time around, but I look forward to getting to catch up with you. And sure, once you have a date anyway, Bobby, let me know, and we can organise a little event there one of the evenings that you're here, and we'll get the whole family together. The Cannabis family, that is. Yes, Bobby saying here, I'm planning on meeting a few of you. I don't know if I will be able to top meeting Rasher. Yeah, Rasher's a bit of a hero, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'll whip up a nice batch of brownies there, and we'll see if we can outdo the Rasher. But I know it's a challenge, like a good challenge, though. Yes, but glad to hear that yourself and Rasher hit it off there as well once you got here. Nice stuff. Says Noah Pear says, shout out from Northern Ireland boss, ex OG guy from Connacht. Well, there you go. There's your shout out. Scatness, what's happening, Scatness? Scatness giving a couple of shout outs there as well to JFGT, ZN, Wes, and Hazmat, and everybody else in the hot box. Nice one, guys. Dahi's out there as well. What's happening, Dahi? Says there's meant to be an inquiry into sodium valproate as well, cause issues with pregnant women. Interesting. That's another anti-epileptic drug, yeah. Believe it is anyway. It's something I'm sounds familiar to me. Calgary says late today. Any 420 news I've missed out on, Martin bro? Not a whole lot just yet. Anyway, I don't believe we've touched off of too much. Just an announcement. Patients for safe access. A bit of an update on my own situation there as well. Geez, we're 30 minutes in and we're still waffling. The hot box is hopping today, guys. Great to see. Nope says Germany going to take money from health department if they don't get legalization on the books by year end. Yeah, it's good to see pressure like that being put by officials. Do you know what it means? Do you know, it means that they're more than just talk. They mean action. Do you know that's we need a little bit of that here in Ireland. Do you know, medical cannabis access program talked about since 2016, wasn't it? And it only got activated in like 2021. Shame on them, like they've no shame. What's happening, Ruben? Ruben Short says, well, Merritt, what's the crack? The crack is mighty here, as you can see. Hotbox is hopping. Guys, we're going to blaze one up because I have to give a shout out to that legend who hooked me up. You know who you are. You're an absolute hero. Very smooth hash as well, I have to say. Very tasty too. I flicked up the gain on the mic there just to pick up that bong head a little bit more. Oh yeah, CN. Oh, sorry, just bumped the gain back down a little bit there. Hopefully not too much. But ZN asking there about product art in August. For myself anyway in particular, ZN, I'm going to be ruled out of product art in August because my sister, who I've not seen now in, nearly 3.5 years, almost 4 years, is going to be coming back to Ireland from Australia. So she's going to be here for the whole month of August into September. So that's going to be ruling me out. I believe she's arriving on the 8th of August. And she's going to be here until like the 8th of September or something thereabouts anyway. So that means I'm going to be like just focused on family time throughout that because niece and nephew I've not seen in that 3.5 years. So look forward to that. So that's me ruled out of product art. Sorry. What's Paradise? Was it Paradise Gardens? Is that what it's called, or something like that? Or there's another festival over there. I think that happens in maybe July. Might make inquiries about that. But product art, unfortunately, no can do. Priorities and all that. Yeah, content LL. There you go. Distracted by the hash. It's a real problem. Hazmat 58 says gene therapy. Was that what Stephen Garland got? I think it was something along those lines, maybe. Not too sure. Nope says not to have market up and run, but a proposal into Parliament. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's it. It's just pressures on them to get the proposal in because they can't get the ball rolling until the proposal is in, until the bill is properly drafted. But yeah, it's not too long now to wait. I believe they have, I think you said until the end of the year. I think it was till the end of even the summer, I think, wasn't it? Boom, there you go. Paradise Gardens is on in September, just after product art. So maybe I might be a bit more available there. We see where that falls. My birthday is on the 4th of September as well, and sure, feck it, if I have to leave, then priorities and all that. I gotta celebrate a man's birthday. Get my sister and the niece and nephew to come with us. Domination says you floated the wrong way. the John Finnegan, what's that? You were floating around that day as well. That day, Martin, I was as well. You weren't the only one floating there that day, John. Green tea says, that's definitely true for me, Martin. The people I met here are some of the most important in my life. Well, there you go, green tea. I think that's a powerful statement, guys. I think just that statement alone, because if you think about it, how each and every one of us out there who consumes cannabis is robbed of the opportunity to go out and socialize with other people who consume cannabis. Like if you're an alcohol consumer, you have the opportunity to head down to the local pub and you could sit down and have a pint, and you might meet people down there from the local community who you might not have got to meet if it wasn't for that premises being there, and you both having a common interest of consuming the alcoholic beverage. Now, also, the pub can be used by non-alcoholic drinkers too, much like a cannabis cafe could be used by non-cannabis consumers too, because you might just find you like the company of people who consume cannabis. You might find yourself just going down to the local cannabis cafe for a cup of coffee and nothing else, a cup of coffee and a chat and nothing else. You're like, no, I'm not going to partake in the cannabis, although you might get a bit of second-hand high if you're in a nice fogged out room, but you could always have an outdoor, maybe a ventilated environment there for those people too. But yeah, nice one. Yeah, green tea. I think that is a very powerful statement. That just through this show, you've met some of the most important people in your life currently, and as I say, like how every day each and every one of us is robbed of that opportunity because of the prohibition of cannabis. That we can't go down to a local, a kind of like what would you call it, a cannabis consumption lounge, whatever you call it, and meet like-minded people and just have friendly conversations with, some of the most friendliest people out there, which is the cannabis consumers. That's not to say that we're all fucking perfect and there's no evil ones out there. There is, but I haven't seen them in the half box here yet. We've got a couple of trolls over the years, but yeah, nothing too bad. Mr. Wes, what's happening? Hey, here, made some great friends here from hanging out in the chat box. Always great to meet folks in real life. That's it, guys. It is as much as the hot box is fun. And as I said, the community just grows and strengthens as we meet one another and get to know one another. So long may that continue. Welcome, Bhagwan's son, another legend that I got to meet. I haven't seen you in the hot box in a while, I don't think, Bhagwan. Hopefully everything's all good. And if memory serves correct, you had a daughter there not too long ago, around the same time as myself. So hopefully everything's going good with your little one. And hopefully everything's going good with yourself and the missus as well. But nice to see you in the hot box this evening. Guys, so many comments coming in there. Cannabis Activist Alliance, what's happening? Hello, CAA here, CAA Ireland here. Please allow and excuse the shameless act of self-promotion, but we'd like to kindly ask all yes here for a channel sub. We'll need to get 100 for a custom URL. So there you go, guys. A little call to action for the Cannabis Activist Alliance's YouTube channel. So if you could kindly, if you've got a YouTube account, just go over there and give them a subscription. You would be absolute legends. I am an active member of the Cannabis Activist Alliance, along with many other legends out there. And guys, to be a part of the Cannabis Alliance is not that difficult. We meet every Tuesday evening via a Zoom meeting. Most of our conversations then throughout the rest of the week is actually done over Facebook, which I do find actually to be quite limiting in terms of getting new members on board. So maybe there might be a change in that in a not too distant future. But right now, Facebook is where the conversation happens throughout the rest of the week. But Zoom is where we meet every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. So if that's free for yourselves and you want to be a part of that conversation, if you want to be a part of that movement here in Ireland and a part of this cannabis activist family, then do drop me a message and I'll get you involved in that. If you simply just want to set up a fake Facebook account and you want to message me, email me or whatever, if you want to just set up an incognito one, if you don't use Facebook is what I'm saying, and if you want to be a part of that discussion that's happening there on Facebook, by all means do so. Message me off Gmail or something, explain who you are or whatever, and we'll get you in there and we'll understand. But as I said, I think it's about time we might have a conversation about setting up a new chat that's kind of away from Facebook Messenger. Because I can see how that can be problematic for people out there, especially people within the cannabis community, and reservations people might have about, having Facebook and Facebook Messenger on their phone while being maybe a cannabis grower or consumer. But there you go. I'm sure these subs are already coming in there for the Cannabis Activist Alliance. You're all heroes out there. Um, just flicking through the comments there. Dahi Golan says, great interview on a trigonometry with ex-undercover cop Neil Woods. Well worth a look. Well, there you go, guys. And Neil Woods is going to be a feature of the 420 News, guys. But trigonometry, so trigger, Trigger, nometry. So trigonometry. It's like trigonometry, but trigger. And Neil Woods was a guest there recently. I'll certainly be reaching out to Neil Woods myself as well in the not too distant future as I get some guests lined up to do more interviews. Pretty sure everyone here can 100% they met a random person they still know thanks to pubs. She's having her hen, you know, because she's a big old stoner. You know, and likewise for the guys, you know, the stag comes in and, you know, through the stag, you're sitting down there, lonely female cannabis stoner, and you meet the love of your life. From up country, but he was down on a stag that weekend. But Hunter, nice one there for that. He says, stream buffering for anyone else. Yeah, I seen some issues there. My screen popped there once or twice. Sorted now. Nice. Sweet. Nice one, guys. Just making sure that I'm still going. Not too sure what happened there. I think my fucking computer is about to give up on me. Might have to reinvest in a new old computer there in a not too distant future. And I have to give a big shout out there actually as well as I said that to pop it up. Archie, you absolute hero. Archie got in a tip there earlier on in the show. He says, keep it up, bro. Move to Norway to sit out the housing crisis. Hopefully it'll be legal in the next 3 years and the housing crisis will be less severe, but I doubt that will happen. Optimistic anyway. Hopefully I'll have to be, because I'm stuck here in Ireland anyway. And the housing crisis, I really do hope it improves, because man, it's nuts here at the fucking moment. Like, rent prices going through the roof, housing, like to be able to buy a house, just getting next one possible for first time buyers. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, but nice one, Archie. Much appreciated there. And that'll certainly go to good use in the not too distant future. Maybe help reinvest in an old new computer here, because this one is constantly crashing on me, giving me that blue screen that anytime I leave my computer idle. But that's a conversation for another day. Anybody out there really good with computers that wants to be a computer doctor, give me a shout if you think you got a solution to my blue screen of death problem for an idling computer. My brother's useless. Nice, guys. Just after catching up there on all of the chats anyway, guys. Apologies if anybody wanted me to read out your chat there and I didn't. There was just so much in the hot box. I'll never get through the rest of the news if we don't touch off it. Yeah, that's what I think what it is, Zien. My brother said that already. He says it's probably dodgy hardware. So maybe my brother's not so useless and I'm just not really listening to him and I should replace my RAM. But again, I'm computer illiterate when it comes to the tech side of this. So yeah, even though my brother he's built a couple of computers in his day. Hunter, I've tried that a couple of times, turning it on and off. I've not tried kicking it yet. I might hold off on that one just yet. Hazmat says, I'm pretty good with PCs, get blue screen view to see what's triggering it. Nice one, Hazmat. That's a great recommendation. I'm going to hit that one in there now. Boom, blue screen view. So, nice one. I've hit that one there now, so I'll look at that once we finish the stream here in a minute. Oh, I actually see that the timer for the stream has restarted there, so you're all still commenting anyway, so happy days. Zien says, take RAM out and replace one at a time until problem appears. Yeah, I think I have two 8 megabit RAMs. I think that's what's in it, 2 8 megabit ones. I think your man fucking caught me when I bought the computer off him, to be fair. Some dude built the computer, I brought it home, it was working away fine for like a month or so, and then blue screen of that when it went idle. maybe I didn't leave it idle at the start. But look, as I said, guys, we're kind of going off on an old tangent as stoners do. But Ash kicking in there now, nice one again to that person. I don't want to put it out there, if I can, because you're an absolute hero, and I don't want to draw too much attention to you. You know who you are. Callum Cully says, smoking the doobie skins with my missus, Mark brother. Smoking different hazes. Nice from Callum. Enjoy that one, man. There was software. Nice one, guys. I appreciate the recommendations. I'll certainly go back through the live chat there in a minute and catch up on those. But let's get back to the news, guys, because we'll never get through today's fucking news if we don't touch off of what we want to touch off of today. We're an awful wafflers over here. So today's 420 news, guys. Yes, microphone's still working. Boom, there we go, guys. Spain looking at legalizing the production of medical cannabis in order to allow a $1 billion industry to grow. So this is a news piece that's coming off of inews.co.uk. And basically they're following off of the back of recent conversations that happened over there in Spain, where the socialist government, I believe, over there, again, forgive me if I'm not too in touch with the Spanish political scene, but basically the government over there are following on from an unsuccessful vote to legalize recreational cannabis last September. They're looking now at legalizing the production of medical cannabis, and as part of that also to sort out the mess that's currently existing for farmers over there who currently want to grow hemp and use the flowers of that for CBD production, because currently in Spain they're not allowed to use the flowers, much like the situation here in Ireland too. So they're looking to sort that out with the upcoming proposed bill that's going to be put before the government. There is going to be expected backlash there from the far right Vox party, I believe, over there. I think that's what they're called, Vox, and some other fucking party as well over there opposing it. But there's a very good comment there that was made. It says here, in September last year, the socialist government voted against the proposal by the left-wing party MAPE to legalise cannabis for recreational purposes, reviving divisions in the coalition government, it says. It says here, in Igro Irjan, the MAPA leader claimed that banning cannabis only encouraged crime, but if the drug laws were legalised, it could create up to 100,000 jobs. He goes on to say that this is about regulating what is already normal on the street. I don't know what country you live in, but I know the country that I live in, and this one, whoever wants to consume cannabis does so, even if it's prohibited. And that was a comment by the leader of the MAPA party during a debate in Parliament. So again, like this is certainly a guy who I'd be voting for, because he seems to be speaking, a bit of sense, like, because he knows what people on the street want. Like we all know here, even in Ireland and even in the UK, that like Barcelona is a prime destination as a cannabis consumer to travel over to because of the clubs. Getting access to cannabis over there now, thanks to this kind of allowance to tolerate the private consumption of cannabis and to allow the setting up of private cannabis associations. This is allowed for kind of a cannabis tourism over there to kind of blossom, I suppose, really. Pardon the pun. But again, like, what's the hesitation? This has been happening for years over there now in Spain. It's not a new thing that's just started falling out of the sky and just appeared overnight. This is around for quite some time. So the leader of the MAPA party is speaking like a man who knows what he's talking about, and the government again over there who voted against this are showing, how really out of touch that they are. Because if they supported this measure back then, and if they got their thinking hats on and put their differences aside and just saying, all right, how best can we serve the people and give them what they want, at the same time protecting people, we could legalize cannabis, the recreational side of it, not just the medical side of it, which is what they're proposing here currently, is just a medical production of it. That's it's problematic, because you have people like Alicia Maher who had to leave Ireland and go to Spain. Like, is that going to change how she gets access to cannabis over there in the future? Are they going to come down more heavier on the clubs and be like, oh yeah, well, look, patients now can get access through whatever Spanish health authority is going to be in charge of it over there. And meanwhile, the cops are going to come in and just like raid all and shut down all of the clubs. And like, who's going to win there? That's just going to drive cannabis back further into the black market, more than what it was in the past. It's going to be no winners. So, while I welcome the move to legalize the production of medical cannabis, it's just appalling that they didn't go entertain the opportunity that was presented before them last September. And I do fear for, how this will change the environment over there if it is successful. As I said, will they come down heavier on clubs and there'll be less of a public backlash then on the government for doing so? Because look, they've provided now for the patients, they're being compassionate while also being uncompassionate, It's a bit of a messed up one. I do have fears as to what might lay ahead for the Spanish industry over there, but until that comes, let's hope, be optimistic that it's going to be good. And again, Wet Willie, nice one. I give a shout out to Wet Willie. Sent in an old super chat there as well a couple of minutes ago. Absolute hero. Nice one for the support there. That's Wet Willie, legend. It's been ages since well, actually, depends on how you think about it. But a wet finger in the air. It's been a while since I got one of those. So yeah, that's Spain. So there's positive news coming out of Spain, And then I suppose the next headline I have, and it's again another positive one. It's a headline. It's a news story brought to you very much thanks to Natalie O'Regan. So our very own Natalie O'Regan, another great Irish cannabis activist out there. She tweeted out this news article there today, and it says that in a study on 7,000 adults, cannabis use improved depression and anxiety at 12 and 18 months in adults diagnosed with these conditions. And that's condition. This is a study that was done over in Canada. It was a retrospective study. So basically, this was a study that was done on a database that was gathered by I can't remember the name of the company, actually. I have it written down on my notes. Damn. Oh, we don't have it written down on my notes. Boom, we'll pop it up on screen here so you can see the actual study. Boom. So this is the actual study, medical cannabis use in Canada and its impact on anxiety and depression, a retrospective study. So a quick disclaimer, I suppose, before we start this, is that the authors of the study, at least one of them anyway, has declared that they have they've got an affiliation to the company that was actually providing the data for the study. So this was a study that was done with data gathered by Harvest Medicine Clinic. So this was data that they had gathered from their patients over a number, I think in a 2-year period, I believe that this data was gathered from. And they compared the patients with anxiety and depression to patients without anxiety and depression. And they showed that the patients with anxiety and depression had a reduction in those conditions thanks to the treatment, at least in part thanks to the treatment of the medical cannabis. Another disclaimer they also noted was that the study did not take into consideration, nor did it gather data on other pharmaceuticals or psychotherapy that patients might have been receiving to help them with their anxiety and depression. So those were two disclaimers that were made there before declarations of that were made as part of that study. But still, nonetheless, the data that was gathered by the study was quite interesting. As I said, it was a retrospective database study. So they compared a cohort of patients who were using cannabis to treat anxiety and depression against the patients who were not using it to treat anxiety and depression. And it was interesting how they done this. So all of the patients carried out the same kind of questionnaire studies. And these are validated questionnaire studies. Like these are not just like some airy-fairy questionnaire that some grad student put together. Like these are accredited questionnaires that are used as part of assessments for anxiety and depression over there in Canada. So the first one was GAD-7 for anxiety. That was general anxiety General anxiety. Shit, what was the name of it? General anxiety disorder. That's what I want. General anxiety disorder 7 questionnaire. And from that, they achieved a baseline level for the patients with anxiety of 11.5. So that was a score that came back for the patients who declared that they did have anxiety and they were using cannabis to treat their anxiety. So that was the level at which they started at before starting their cannabis treatment. The cohort of patients who were not using cannabis to treat their anxiety, they came back with an average of 5.3. So that was the baseline of patients who were not using cannabis to treat anxiety. That was a score at which they were scoring at. So that basically what they're getting there is a level at which people, healthy-minded people who didn't have anxiety were scoring at. Because, you know, we all have some small level of anxiety, but, you know, there's a clinically important score there. I don't know what the score actually is on this one, but I think it's above 7 on this one. So GAD 7, hence the 7. I think once you score above 7, then you can be clinically diagnosed with having anxiety. So that's that one. So what they found is in these patients who were using cannabis to treat their anxiety is that the score went down over time. So these patients were carrying out these questionnaires or were filling out these questionnaires. So they were maybe, I don't know exactly the period of time between questionnaires. I would imagine maybe it was done on a weekly or possibly a daily basis. I'm not too sure. And the distance between the time between the questionnaires, that would certainly affect the outcome of the quality of the data as well. But still, nonetheless, the scores did show that the score for anxiety went down over time, thanks to, at least in part, again, as I said, they didn't take into consideration other therapies or pharmaceuticals being used by patients, but thanks to the cannabis treatment. And the most noticeable decreases were between the first and third month for anxiety. So I'm going to pop up a little graph from this. There you go. This is a little graph from this study. So this just shows the baseline at which the patient started off with. So you see patients here, even the patients without anxiety, they started off at a base level of 5.8, I mentioned. And that dropped. Even the patients without anxiety, they showed a decrease over the first 3 months as well, a noticeable decrease. But their decrease in their median, the average score, was not as noticeable as the decrease in the patients who actually were declared as having anxiety. And you see that level there, the line here, that's the line at the score 7. So that shows that the patients actually with anxiety, that upon reaching the 12-month mark, they were all below that clinically important score of 7. So effectively, you could say that cannabis was after at least clinically curing their anxiety, you know, in terms of this score, like they've no longer got anxiety as part of that. Like, you know, it's not to say that they could stop their treatment. You know, it just means that they're scoring now at a level which they be regarded as not having anxiety anymore, at least not, you know, at a level at which you should be concerned about. And, you know, that's some very positive findings there. So cannabis being shown to be beneficial for your mental health problems, guys. You know, despite what the mainstream media, but people like Bobby Smith might try to tell you, people like Mary Cannon might try to tell you, cannabis can be an effective remedy for people's mental health, especially in from this study anyway, for things like anxiety and depression. But it needs to be done with the help of a professional. Because, like, think about it for a second. If you've got anxiety or depression, and now you've got to break a law to treat that condition, like, think about what, like, having an illegal substance on you while you're going down the road is going to do to your anxiety. Think about it for a second, you know, and think about what it's going to do to you if getting caught with that cannabis, if you got depression. Like, imagine if you just picked up a bag of cannabis and you're self-medicating with cannabis to treat your depression, and you're so unlucky you're going home and a cop sees you and you're wearing a hoodie and he's like, ah, yeah, he's wearing a hoodie, people in hoodies, and he's young and he's got a scruffy looking beard or something like that, you know, and let's stop and search that guy. And meanwhile, you know, you're just some innocent individual self-medicating with cannabis to treat their depression. That person leaves the guard station if they're brought back there and just takes a long fucking walk off a short hair, you know, short cliff, whatever the place may be. Just think about it, like the effect prohibition is going to have on people who are self-medicating with cannabis, especially here in Ireland, where, you know, some of the headlines here in Ireland, it's absolutely appalling. So this is going to bring me into the next news article then, and we'll go back to Canada in a little bit then as well. So we'll pop this off screen. Actually, before I pop that off screen, we'll I get up the depression one. I'll just quickly show you the score for depression. It's very pixelated, so forgive me for that. So this is the depression score. Very similar results. The line shows the base level at which it's kind of the clinically important line for depression. And again, patients receding below that line after about 12 months of treatment. Happy fucking days, like, you know, one day at a time, but each day improving, score improving, depression receding. Why aren't we affording people access to this therapy if it's what they're looking for? Ridiculous. But yeah, as I said, Ireland, it's an appalling state of affairs here. This is a headline coming out of Ireland's the Highland Radio. Prosecution of man with €2 worth of cannabis sparks call for legalization. So that's the headline there, and it's talking about the prosecution of a Letterkenny man for possessing €2 worth of cannabis. Has been branded simply ludicrous. It says the man who was caught with a single joint worth €2 was ordered to make €200 charitable donation after appearing at Letterkenny District Court. Like, the man was basically extorted. He had €200 of his own money stolen off him in order to avoid a criminal conviction. It's criminal. The act in itself is criminal. It's more criminal than possessing cannabis to extort an individual of €200 of their own money. You know, in order to impose intimidation, you know, punitive damages. Bullshit, it really is. Like, but Gino Kenny was on the show there recently on 9 to 9 show. So he had this to say. I'll pop him on there now in a second. Boom.
It's simply ludicrous that somebody is brought before a court, you know, for that amount of cannabis for personal use and prosecuted. You really do scratch your head in relation to that the amount of resources that goes into bringing somebody before a court, police time, court time, and all that. That, you know, them resources are best served by bringing somebody before a court and all that. Cannabis should be legalised and regulated. So in a number of months, People for Profit will be introducing a bill about legalisation and regulation for personal use. So that's where I would argue. Nobody should be prosecuted for consumption of cannabis, possession of cannabis, or cultivation of cannabis. I think it's a complete waste of time. Decriminalization is kind of somewhere in the middle. So basically decriminalizes the person rather than legalizing the drug that they may have on them.
Dependent on which drug you take and how much of it, there can be a slippery slope there. So how do we make sure that if this were to happen, that what we don't do is we not only decriminalize, but we also normalize drug use?
Well, I would argue that, you know, cannabis is a very prevalent substance, regardless of where you live in Ireland. It's easy obtainable, and, you know, people will use it whether it's legal or not.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey! Hey! And Gino Kenny bringing us right up to the 10-second countdown for 420. But Gino bringing up some excellent points there on that recent radio show, and plugging his upcoming bill as well, which seeks to legalise or at least decriminalise the production and possession of cannabis in Ireland. I really do look forward to seeing that bill once it's out there for the public to see. But yeah, it's 420 there, guys. Blaze on up if you're out there. I just packed up a bowl, but we might save that for a couple of minutes. We have another video. Feck it. Yeah, we'll save it for a couple of minutes. I have another little video there to play for you in a couple of minutes as we go back to Canada in a couple of seconds. But again, Gino Kenny bringing up some excellent points. The amount of wasted resources that goes into policing the the use of cannabis, I suppose, the selling of cannabis is absolutely ridiculous, and the opportunities that's missed because of it as well. It's a ridiculous. €2 worth of cannabis. Come on, like what was your man, Paul Lee, West Cork man? He suffered with opiate addiction in the past. Didn't want to be using opiates as part of a pain treatment regimen. Opted for cannabis instead, and was caught with €4 worth and criminalised in the Irish courts. It's appalling over here, like it really is. And people just expect it to just take it and move on. I know we got other issues here. We got a housing crisis, we got all sorts of shit going on in the world as well. But at the same time, this is such an easy issue to deal with. It's been such a long-standing issue too. It's one that deserves to be just put to bed now once and for all. Cannabis, it's not a criminal thing. It should never have been a criminal thing. It should never have been one. But as I said, we'll go back to Canada anyway, because I'll rant on for ages about this otherwise. Canada, look at this. Like, this is an excellent headline, and I really am happy to be seeing this, as Canada is trialling decriminalizing cocaine, MDMA, and other drugs. So this is a recent announcement that was made over there. So it's not the entirety of Canada, guys. So I don't know if you know about the geography of Canada. It's broken up into different provinces. And the province of British Columbia, so the one that's famous for that BC bud, well, they're now after seeking an exemption under the criminal code for the allowance of a decriminalization of possessing small amounts of illicit drugs, including opiates, cocaine, methamphetamines, and MDMA. So over there in BC, this is following after last year. They had a massive spike in overdoses there last year. So in 2021 in BC, British Columbia alone, they had over 2,000 overdose deaths. Many of these overdose deaths were associated to fentanyl contaminated drug supplies. People were expecting to get diamorphine, which is otherwise known as heroin on the street. They were expecting to get diamorphine, and instead they were getting fentanyl. And again, the difference between a dose of diamorphine and a dose of fentanyl is huge. There's I think there's 100 times in the potency, the difference. So just think about I don't know, 100 times in the difference. Jesus, like a grain of rice to 100 grains of rice. A grain of rice, that's enough to kill you with fentanyl. 100 grains of rice is how much heroin you needed to kill yourself. That's about as graphic as I could be with that one anyway, so hopefully I done that. But the decriminalization anyway, it's going to allow a person to possess up to 2.5 grams of opioids, cocaine, methamphetamine, and MDMA. So that's not 2.5 grams of each, that's 2.5 grams combined total. So they can have a gram of cocaine and a gram of heroin, half gram of MDMA, and it's all good. If they get stopped by the authorities will not seize the drugs. They will not issue any punitive fines, like a small fine. And the person will instead receive maybe an information leaflet about the local services, and information as well on harm reduction on different substances that they might have been found in possession of. So a very positive step forward. And Canada, they've no stranger to these kind of trials, as they've been currently rolling out trials over there with the provision of heroin. I believe that's in Canada at least. Anyway, but there's a little video I'll play there in a couple of seconds for you. But I just want to get down to comments. Or I believe actually I have it here as a picture. Here it is. Boom. Comments here from Canada. So we'll just pop this off. In its request to the federal government last year, BC said it asks for the drug law exemption in order to remove the shame that often prevents people from reaching out for life-saving help. So this is not a move that's been done in order to allow people, to go out and have a fucking party and go wild on drugs. No, this is just identifying that prohibition doesn't work, and that it's actually cutting people off. It's a barrier in the way of people getting access to life-saving help. So the Federal Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, Carolyn Bennett, said on Tuesday that for too many years, the ideological opposition to harm reduction has cost lives. We are doing this to save lives, but also to give people using drugs their dignity and choices. And the Vancouver Mayor, Kennedy Stewart, said the decision marks a fundamental rethinking of drugs policy that favours healthcare over handcuffs. And I believe that was a thing that was going around there for a while, actually, healthcare over handcuffs. Just quickly pop it up. I think that was something I seen an image of. No, I can't find it, but I believe we had something like that for the CITS SDP in the past as well, healthcare over handcuffs. But yeah. So happy days there. Well done to the guys over in Canada. This is going to be commencing, guys, on the 31st of January next year. So on the 31st of January next year, in the province of British Columbia, for a trial period of 3 years, people will be able to possess up to 2.5 grams combined of MDMA, opiates, methamphetamines, and cocaine. And you know, this is great news because I believe this will free up the opportunity. This will enable more opportunities for some of the grassroots groups over there, such as DULF, I believe they're called DULF, Drug Users Liberation Front, DULF, Drug Users Liberation Front. They're a Canadian movement. They're doing some tremendous work over there for quite some time now. They've been holding protests, something similar to what I've been doing here in Ireland, but just fucking much more legendary, to be fair. They've been giving drug users free, clean drugs. So they were coming out with uncontaminated samples of cocaine, uncontaminated samples of heroin, uncontaminated samples of MDMA, and they were giving them to drug users for free, or maybe in exchange for a donation. I don't know, but I do believe that I do believe it was free. I don't think that it was a requirement to give a donation. Yeah. So yeah, that's coming out of Canada, and I have a little video there that I said I will play for you. So this one touched me a while ago. If I can, hopefully it doesn't touch me again. You know, because, you know, I can't help but look at this and be thinking, you know, that some of these people, you know, that we might so rudely speak of in the media and stuff like that as junkies and druggies, you know, and all of these kind of negative things, you know, these are sick people, you know, like, and I mean that in the sense that these are people with illnesses, like, you know, when you sit down and get to talk to them and stuff like that, it's crazy, you know. It really is. When you get to know the person behind the addiction, it's just really gets you when you hear the word junkie. It's just very triggering. Like when you hear people just, you know, just use it so blasé, you know, it's just like no bother at all, you know. Like no, it's bad. But anyway, sorry, I'll play this.
Who's my best friend? Downtown Vancouver.
Yeah, it is Canada.
Tragic street theatre of the desperate, the dying, the addicted. The opioid crisis has swept North America, but the unique response here is to treat all of this as a public health epidemic. Fentanyl, a powerful opioid, has taken 1,500 lives on these streets in the past year. Take it easy, okay? Stay safe.
My name is Melissa. I've overdosed 3 times, and I didn't even know I overdosed.
Terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
What saved you?
It saved me. Probably just my own willing to live.
You gonna be okay?
I hope so. I hope so.
I hope so too. I really do.
Spot on there, Continental.
It's all centered on these few city blocks. So many people out here are living with their addictions and are openly injecting and smoking drugs out on the streets. But that very visibility is taken here to be a good thing. It's argued that if these people can be seen, they can also be saved. The cops mostly back off, and there are few arrests here for drug use.
Hi.
Instead, Vancouver has these safe injection sites.
Pretty good. What are you using?
This one was started illegally by the community. It was highly controversial, but has become the prototype for the official public health program. Users bring their own
I just wanted to point out there, and I hope none of you missed that, but like what he just said there was very important, is that this center is saving lives, and it was started illegally, but it's become the model on which, you know, the legal ones, you know, it's become legal since now, but it's the model in which those ones are built upon. Like, so just think about that for a second, like that people have to break the law to show that they can save lives with this, you know, because the stigma there around, you know, providing access to safe access to clean drugs for drug users was just that much, you know. We'd rather these people get dirty drugs and die on our streets rather than provide a life-saving service and a clean supply of drugs, you know. We'd rather empower the organised crime groups out there by leaving these people in their care, because, again, as I say, like a lot of these people have illnesses. Nobody wakes up in the morning and, like, you know, just decides to do, like, inject themselves with heroin, unless that's what you're into. Shout out to Professor Carl Hart. But for many of these people, you know, they're using it as a form of escape, of maybe getting away from a much larger underlying issue, that the addiction itself on the surface is a much smaller problem. But yeah, sorry, I just said I'd just get that in there, that this was set up initially illegally, and it's since become, you know, the model in which future services have been rolled out upon. Incredible stuff. Well done to everybody who made that possible. Absolute heroes out there, you know, putting it all on the line, breaking the law to save lives. But meanwhile, the policymakers getting paid exorbitant amounts of money, you know, just like sitting back and just being, you know, completely idealistic and costing lives as a result. Messed up, man.
Street drugs. They take a seat and they take their hit.
It's been really strong the last couple of weeks.
Jamie's ex-army, an Afghanistan vet, now battling the cycle of prison, homelessness and addiction.
Pretty wild. I've never seen so much death other than when I was in the military, deployed. And overdose. Probably 8 times.
Do you think they've saved your life?
Oh, totally.
Saved by the opioid antidote, Narcan. Vancouver policy is to make it freely available to everyone, including users themselves. And it works. Overdose victims, critical cases. Back from the dead. The Vancouver model accepts that some will never beat their addiction. And so the argument goes, just as those with diabetes are given insulin, this cutting-edge clinic, opioid users are prescribed pure, medical-grade heroin.
That's what's needed.
Is some people will say, have you gone crazy? You're giving heroin to people with addictions.
When somebody is using opioids daily, there is a huge cost to society. In the criminal justice system, court costs, policing costs, transmission of infectious diseases, and all of that can be reduced.
Patty and Joey take heroin here 3 times a day, freed from the tyranny of finding and funding their next fix. What do you think your lowest moment was?
Being on the street, selling whatever I could, get better.
What were you selling?
Everything but my soul. Oh yeah.
Like, thinking of that, like, for a second, like, look at this woman here now, and like the condition she's in. Like, you could probably walk past this woman and mistake her for not being a person who uses heroin on a daily basis, you know. And I could probably say the same for her partner. But should have been, like, you know, forced, you know, because of their illness, into living on the streets, you know, injecting behind fucking dumpsters, and, as she said, selling everything but her soul. You know, take from that what you will. But I know what I'm understanding from what she said there, and like the fact now that she gets prescribed heroin means she no longer has to you know, be focused on, you know, selling everything but her soul in order to get money to provide for the heroin. She can focus on things like education, focus on things like, you know, maybe the underlying issue there, maybe that's kind of driving her need to use heroin. I don't know, but look, I'm just saying that from looking at this woman, and you know what the services over there in Canada have allowed her to be, I believe that without them, you know, she like not only might not look not look as good as she does currently in this video, she might not even be alive to be a part of this video, you know, so because these services save lives. Unlike the rhetoric of people like Frank Vian and their health-led approach to drugs. But yeah, I'll continue. Sorry for going off on a bit of a, you know, a not cannabis-related story, but injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere, and I think the war on drugs just needs to be outright condemned. Prohibition does not work. It doesn't work for cannabis, and it certainly does not work for people who use drugs like heroin.
For them, heroin on prescription means stability, a new apartment, plans for education and work. You see a future, both of you, don't you?
Yes.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That's
A good
what's wonderful
future.
about this. Yeah.
A good future, a bright future,
Yes,
a
very
healthy
much so.
future.
Never ever let you go.
Never.
And so there is some success. But what's really needed across North America is to find a way to block the initial road to addiction. The road that leads here to all of this. Jeremy Cook, BBC News, downtown Eastside, Vancouver.
Well, there you go. That was a piece there by BBC, just kind of looking at the approach being used over there, the alternative approach to the prohibition of drugs, which is actually just to provide people on prescription basis their heroin. Speechless now after that, like. Got me again a second time it did. But like, what gets me is that you just can't help but think of just all the lives have been laid down in the past. You know, people have been just hurting and just wanting to escape from the hurt, and they're using a drug like heroin. You know, not saying everybody uses heroin again. You know, in reference fucking Professor Carl Hart, he's always an outlier in this one when you're talking about heroin. But for many people who choose to use heroin, they're escaping from some sort of pain, and or a lack of connection, you know, or a pain because of a lack of connection, you know. I don't have to sympathize with him. John Phantom, more than 50% of the legal opium production is in Tasmania. Most of the prescription opiates require it as a precursor. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's opium being grown, you know, by farmers all over the place, you know, even in Afghanistan where the US soldiers were protecting it. For the big pharma and stuff like that. Yeah, Darren Vickers saying here, services for addicts in Ireland are non-existent. Yeah, you know what, that they really and truly are. And it's a crying shame because I know many people out there who say would you recreationally use cocaine and they would recreationally use cannabis, and they can hold down jobs, they can hold down, you know, healthy, stable relationships and positions and within their social environment and stuff like that. And those people are out there, instead of, you know, funding their local community with their purchases, they're funding organized crime gangs. When, you know, my purchase of cannabis, if I was to be a consumer of cannabis and buying it, that money could be going back into addiction services, you know. But instead we just no prohibition and let's keep the organized crime gangs funded. Mad stuff, like mad stuff. But we talked about him there earlier, and this is an old article. But Neil Woods, this is an old article that's from 2016. This was actually published, and he's talking about Witness, a heroin clinic that showed decriminalization actually works. This was a heroin clinic that was, again, illegally set up. Illegally set up. It was a doctor who was just illegally prescribing people clean, safe heroin. And what this doctor proved through his little illegal experiment was shocking, because the government shut it down despite his positive findings. This guy found that between 1980s and the 1990s, when he was carrying out this experiment, that he was able to cut a crime such as burglary. So these are crimes associated with the use of drugs like heroin, you know, when people are addicted to it, go out and commit these crimes, by 93%. Street prostitutes leaving sex work, and thieves and robbers holding down regular jobs. So this guy found that the people who he was prescribing the heroin to, that 93% of them, that they were not engaged in other acquisitive crimes such as burglary, street prostitution, and other crimes which are kind of normally associated with the drug addict. So despite the positive findings, the government moved in and shut this guy down. Not only did they shut him down, but they completely demonized the guy, and he had to emigrate over to New Zealand. So this was a doctor. Dr. John Marks was the name of this doctor, who apparently used a legal loophole to prescribe heroin. And that was until the government got wind as to what was going on. And I think they only got wind as to what was going on when he brought it to their attention, kind of saying, hey, look, I'm doing this little experiment down there and it's working wonders. They were like, you're doing what? You're saving lives, you're reducing crime? How fucking dare you? That's our job. Well, we're going to show you now. We're going to come down there and we're going to stop you from doing that. So Neil Woods condemned the moves by the US government back then, but he was using it as an example as to how decriminalization and the prescribing of heroin to addicts works. Not only works to help the addicts, but it also helps to help the wider community, with the reduction in the associated crimes. So there's Neil Woods pictured there, and I do have a comment there from Neil Woods that I've separated, and here he is. In his book, Good Cop, Bad War, Neil argued that prohibition leads to the escalating levels of brutality as organised crime groups, or otherwise known as OCGs, adapt to police tactics to monopolise and expand their market control to smaller towns from their cities. During his undercover career, he came to not just the conclusion that the war on drugs was futile, but also the startling conviction that his work has caused more harm than good. And asked, was this war too harsh an assessment? Asked whether this was too harsh an assessment, he said his operations resulted in 1,000 years of prison sentences for only disrupted supply for up to 7 minutes. So think about that, okay? People had to spend a combined total of thousands of years behind bars in order to disrupt this drug supply for 7 minutes. It's just not, it's not worth it, like it isn't. So Neil is now the chairman of the Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, which is a UK campaign group, but in the 1990s and the 2000s he went undercover to take on gangs including the Burger Bar Boys, who used rape to enforce the reign of fear, and his work also took him to Brighton, where he came to believe that dealers tampered with heroin doses to cause overdoses to enforce the reign of fear. Like, this is just some of the ways in which prohibition just destroys community. It just makes life more dangerous for not only the cops, but for the drug users and for the non-drug users alike. Because if you're living next door to a drug dealer, then guess what? You're in danger. If the guy next door to you is a local drug dealer and he doesn't pay, he's higher up, the guy above him, like, there's a likelihood, his house get petrol bombed, or potentially yours gets done instead by mistake, because the arsonist being paid to come out and carry out the attack, made a simple mistake. As happens. So prohibition is not good. It's not good for drug users. It's not good for the community in which the drug users exist in, and the drug dealers exist in too. So that's Neil Woods. As I said, that is an old article. Pop up his book there, which we mentioned, just so you can see what the book looks like if you're at all interested in it. Neil Woods, Good Cop, Bad War. Haven't read it myself, but I've heard many speeches given by Neil Woods, read many of his interviews in the media in the past, and I'd imagine the book is going to be worth the money that you paid to buy it for it. So there we go. That if you want to go read that article, as I said, it's an older article, but I just wanted to home in on those main comments from an undercover cop who used to be out there enforcing the prohibition of drugs. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for cannabis. It doesn't work for any other drugs. So we come back to Ireland then, guys, because we talked about Canada there. We talked about how cannabis or how drug prohibition, it just doesn't work. Well, this is the news headline here from Cork, and this is something that, again, is a bit close to home for myself, because I was a student not too long ago. I ran a student society called the Students for Sensible Drugs policy, and it came very in touch with the nature of drug use within the student environment. I knew how people would go out on a weekend and engage in maybe drinking alcohol, taking cocaine or pills and stuff like that. How house parties would happen and people would just go out and just engage in taking MDE for the night and stuff like that. And how many of these people would not actually be honest about the fact that they take drugs? Like I know many people who still, despite them knowing that I know that they take cocaine and stuff, they still won't open up about it. They won't talk about the fact that they just went into the bathroom and took a line, because the stigma is very much real out there. But anyway, this is the headline coming out of Ireland, out of Cork, and it's from the Cork BO newspaper, and it says half of Irish students say that they have taken drugs as part of normal college life. And that normal college life is in little kind of in quote marks there, whatever you want to call them, apostrophes, is it? I don't know. But anyway, it's got those little things next to it anyway, because that was a question that was actually on this study. It was a questionnaire that was done for students, the drug use in higher education in Ireland. It was carried out by 11,592 students, and of those students, over 50% of them regarded that drug use was just a normal part of college life. That if you're a young student coming to college, that, going out at the weekend, and that drug use is just going to be a normal part of that, Maybe for some of the students, and referring to that question, that they've seen alcohol as a drug, I would reckon if they included, drug use being a part of normal college life, and little commas next to it saying kind of, or in brackets next to it, that's what those are, commas, in brackets next to it, saying, alcohol is a drug too. I would imagine you would have about 70 to 80% of students saying that, yeah, maybe even 90% of students saying that, yeah, drug use is actually a normal part of college life, because when students come to college, they like to let their hair down and party as well, because it can't be just all fucking books and studying, all work, no play makes Johnny a madman, or you know yourself. But other interesting findings from the study was that 1 in 2 students actually said that they had used an illegal drug as part of their college experience. So 1 in 2 students had admitted to using illegal drugs. Of these students then, of these students, 1 in 2 of the students used cannabis, while 1 in 4 students had used cocaine, and a similar amount had also used drugs like ecstasy. So cannabis here winning the #1 spot as being the most popular drugs for students, while cocaine coming in at a second, and drugs like ecstasy not too far behind cocaine then as well, it says. So it's very interesting findings. But again, for me, the alarming thing here is that students are at the mercy of organised crime gangs out there, because, again, problems that we touched off of there in the earlier video with drug users in Canada, with the heroin users getting contaminated supplies of heroin. The very much same thing can happen here in Ireland. Even for something as benign as cannabis, we all know cannabis as being a relatively safe drug, a relatively safe plant in which to consume. But if you were to actually get a sample of cannabis that's contaminated with, say, synthetic cannabinoids, then you could actually be in for quite an unpleasant experience. Because again, using the example a while ago, the grain of rice to 100 grains of rice, that's the similar experience there for natural cannabinoids to synthetic cannabinoids. And it can actually be even worse, actually. It could be even up to 1,000 grains of rice in comparison, the effect, the potency, 1 grain of rice being an effective dose of a synthetic cannabinoid, while 1,000 grains of rice being a similar effective dose of a natural cannabinoid. Think about it. If you consume those in a similar fashion, if you're consuming natural cannabinoids at that fashion, thinking you're getting a normal dose, 100 milligrams of normal cannabinoids, you do that with a synthetic cannabinoid, you could have just potentially taken 1,000 times more than what you intended to. That's not good. Whereas in fact, you should have been taking maybe like 0.1 of a milligram of that synthetic cannabinoid to get an effect, But anyway, within this article, there was some comments here from the UCC Student Union President. The Student Union President, Asha Woodhouse, said that the findings of the DUHEI report gives us much needed data and insight into the landscape of drug use among students in third level education across Ireland. It also highlights the need for public health messaging, tailored supports, and harm reduction interventions for students who use drugs. The majority of students said that their main reason for using most drugs was to have fun. However, many current users took cannabis to relax. So I think, like, again, in that, you can take that's a self-medication. Many cannabis users, they're actually taking cannabis to relax, maybe to de-stress from the stress of like deadlines and college and all of that stuff. So again, something to be examined there on that. But again, for the UCC Student Union President, Asha Woodhouse, like, your comments there need to go further. Like, you say it also highlights the need for public health messaging, tailored supports, and harm reduction interventions for students who use drugs. Like, it also highlights the need to end the prohibition of cannabis and provide safe and effective access to the student's drug of choice. Because so long as a student is forced to procure their drug from the black market, then they're going to be exposed to the dangers of contaminated drug supplies, which is ever more dangerous when it comes to drugs like cocaine and MDMA. If you get some ecstasy pills that are maybe a bit fucking too much rap poison or something in there, go for the old cliche, like, there's rap poison in there. Even though apparently that was always the myth, like, there's a good bang off those ones with the rap poison. But anyway, look, we won't go too much into that, but the dangers are there. And the student union president should have went one further and said, the government needs to step in here now and regulate the supply of drugs, because the organised crime gangs, they're preying on students as well, because these organised crime gangs are making like quite a sum of money off of the students, actually, in fairness, because I would imagine students as a cohort of the Irish population are quite high up there in terms of the percentage of which consume drugs, 50% are based upon this finding. Based upon the rest of the Irish population, I would say, like, maybe it might be a bit closer to 25% of the Irish population, or 30% of the Irish population might use an illegal drug. I don't know what the people think on that one. Am I way off on that? You think it's higher, lower for the Irish population, just out there, average Joe public? What percentage of those people do you think use illegal drugs? But for students, another thing here it highlights too is the need to end or decriminalize as well. Because where is the conversation here as to the effect of a criminal conviction on a student caught in possession of an illegal drug? Again, Asha Woodhouse, man, I'm sorry, but your comments just do not go far enough. You need to be condemning the war on drugs. You need to be highlighting the failure of the state in order to protect the young individual who maybe during college wants to try some drugs. Like, what shame is in that? Like, if a student wants to use some heroin, why is the government not heroin, cocaine? If a student wants to go out and try some cocaine, why not provide a safe and effective way in which they can do that and, protect the consumer of the cocaine, while also, taking away the ability of the organised crime gangs to get so powerful in Ireland in the first place? Ridiculous. So sorry, Asha. Sorry for picking on you, but yeah, you ran against my buddy as well. It's happening, Caleb. Yeah, I'm sure if my buddy had won that race for president of UCC, that he would have a much better fucking comment there on that, because I believe, as I've met with the guy and talked to him, he's much more in the know on the effect that the war on drugs has on people. But it says here, the majority of students said the main reason for using most drugs was to have fun. However, many users took cannabis to relax. Yeah, the study also said that students usually use house parties, festival, or their own homes to take drugs, which is another big problem here as well, highlighted, because many students who might be using drugs at a house party, let's say that a student is after ODing at a house party, like, what's the likelihood of a person actually at that party, maybe, let's say it was the actual house owner, let's say the house owner at the house party started at ODing, like, what's the chances that people might, like, ring the health services? Like, many people will probably just, oh shit, fucking, I'm getting out of here. Like, maybe someone might ring an ambulance and then get out of there. Like, but how many people might actually be willing to stick around if there's illegal drugs in the house and get the person into the recovery position and make sure they don't swallow their tongue or, choking their own vomit or some shit like that? Likelihood is, again, because of prohibition, the dangers of prohibition and getting a criminal conviction, it's going to make many people abscond. And again, that's something we're going to be touching off of here, is that the fear which is instilled into people because of the prohibition of drugs. And while it doesn't deter their drug use, it does create big problems there in order to be able to enable safe drug use. So again, the study also said that students usually, read that. Sarah, jeez, Sorla? Jeez, I'm even having a problem with that name, and I'm Irish, like. Severla? Jeez. I'm butchering, but Miss Brennan, I think it's a miss. I think it's Miss Brennan, Vice President for Welfare, said that the USI supports the recommendation that the study be repeated at 5-yearly intervals to monitor trends in drug use prevalence, attitudes, and behaviours among students in Ireland. She also added that the USI supports the inclusion of drug harm reduction within the Healthy Campus framework and believes it is an integral aspect of the framework. But like, not just drug harm reduction. Why we also focused on drug harm reduction? But what about the people who use drugs and don't befall any harm? What about the people who go out there and take some ecstasy pills and they don't chew the face off themselves because they were adequately prepared and they done well? What about those people? Why don't we ever focus on those people and the people who enjoy drugs and it doesn't impact negatively upon their life and their ability to hold a job or to achieve academic accolades? Like, it never hindered upon mine. Like, the only thing that hindered upon my ability to do my college work was being criminalized for my drug use, for being criminalized for my possession of cannabis. That messed up my head. It caused me all sorts of problems. But for me, man, it was study high, do the test high, get high scores. I never fucking failed. I didn't fail a single exam going through the entirety of my college career. Doing the GMP course, doing the higher science, or the Bachelor of Science honours degree in herbal science, didn't fail a single test. In fact, I didn't get the 1-1 in the end. Actually, I got screwed over there in that last period. But look, up until that final fucking hurdle, I was achieving a 1-1. Like, throughout all of my years, I was always achieving above that, like 80%. Was my GPA. I was like quite a brain box. But I was passionate. I enjoyed what I was doing, and I thought, that in time to come that I would be able to use that knowledge that I achieved as a herbal scientist to better the world, to help provide better access to cannabis, more effective treatments there for patients with cannabis. But unfortunately, it's been 4 years now since I graduated, and yet still I'm just fighting to get the fucking plant legalized. I haven't yet been able to work with it yet. But look, but things will come. Changes on the horizon. President John O'Halloran of UC said he looked forward to aiding recovery of drug use and reducing harms among students in higher education in Ireland. Again, where's the facilitating, safe drug use spaces? I don't know. Like, where's the facilitating? I don't know. Where's the college's drive there to provide for drug testing? Because if you want to reduce harms, like, why wasn't the college more supportive of the UCC Students for Sensible Drug policy when they tried to provide drug testing kits for free to students? That was something that was done. Like, or in UCC, the Students for Sensible Drug policy were providing drug testing kits for free to students to test their drugs, and the student union, I don't know, was it the student union? I think the student union, because of maybe pressure from the college higher ups, had to shut it down. They couldn't provide the drug testing kits despite the interest that was there for it, and there was much interest there for it. The Students with Sensible Drug policy were actually seeking funding from the college in order to buy more kits. There was so much interest there for these kits. Students probably weren't willing to go out there and buy the kits themselves, or maybe were like unwilling to be seen going into some of the places that would sell them, or were worried that buying them online might brought unwanted attention to them. But they had no problem reaching out to the Students with Sensible Drug policy in order to acquire those kits. And those kits, while not completely foolproof, condoms aren't foolproof. It's like, condoms can fail too. But these drug kits, they provided a layer of protection for drug users, much like condoms. But they don't, like, condoms don't encourage sex. Drug testing kits don't encourage drug use. The drug use was going to happen. The sex was going to happen. It just encourages more safe sex, more safe drug use. The college, when they shut that down, they should have followed up with, look, while we were shutting it down for these reasons because these things aren't 100% foolproof, they're going to give a false sense of security there to drug users, is what the college said. Why didn't the college just turn around and say, actually, but we've got these HPLCs and we've got all of these fucking chemistry students who are, they can do a PhD there on, like, the effects of providing a drug testing service within a college environment to reducing the harm seen in college for drugs, for students, whatever the case might be. Why weren't they more proactive back then to work with us rather than just shut us down and be like, no, get out the door, don't talk to us, like, that was it. Yeah. So that's coming out of Cork anyway, as I said. And again, an interesting thing out of that was the over 50% of the respondents. So of the over 11,000 respondents, over 50% of them, 1 and 2, had said that they used cannabis as their drug of choice. Well, think about that in a second for this headline, which is 2.8 million worth of cannabis was recently seized here at the Rosslare Europort. So there's a little picture there of all the baggies of cannabis. So 2.8 million worth of cannabis, which in weight terms is 140 kilos of cannabis. It was estimated to be worth 2.8 million euros. That's based upon 20 euros per gram. But again, you think about that, students, like 50% of students, let's just say if we were after regulating and providing a safe way in which students go and buy cannabis in the local community, like 50% of students would be going down there. Potentially there could be more, because how many people lied on the survey because, they don't want to be honest about their drug use. No, we won't go there either. But let's say 50%. Still 50% of students going down there buying from that 2.8 million euros worth of cannabis. Like, not only would they be helping support jobs within the local community for the local growers of the cannabis, for the local cannabis dispensary retailers, the cannabis consultants, if you want to call them that. But like all of the money that would have been generated from that, all of the income tax that would have been there, all of the people who might have potentially come off of welfare because, they no longer have to be an illegal drug dealer, they can now go legit and set up a little shop down locally and bring all their old customers that they were selling illegally to into a new premises, and it could be the new like pub for the cannabis community, and it's sorely needed, it really is, reflecting on like some of the things that have been said here. Like, I never realized what this show was going to bring to the community. But like some of your comments there earlier on, the friendships that have been made, the importance of the people that you've met in this community in your life right now. I never knew that was going to be a thing when I done it, but now that I know it's a thing, it just really reinforces the need to provide a social environment for people who like to consume cannabis to come together and socialize around that consumption. And again, even the non-consumers who just like to be around the cannabis consumers because they might find them to be funny or something like that. Who knows? But again, an opportunity for them to come down and socialize with the people they like too. It's crazy. But 2.8 million, you slap a 10% tax on that. Like, you're talking 280,000. You slap whatever tax that they want on it. Like, I hope they don't slap too much of a tax on it, because then again, they're just going to drive the black market. But again, 280,000, just think about that. If it was 10%, think about what you could do with 280,000 in the local community if students, those 50% of students were allowed to go down and buy that. Wondrous things. 280,000, that's wondrous things. Like, to think how many like kids from disadvantaged areas you could get into local communities or into to leisure centres and stuff like that. Again, just think for a second where I'm going with this, because like, you think of the Iceland model, we're talking about legalizing drugs and all of this stuff, and it was mentioned in Canada earlier, getting at the underlying issue that's driving the addiction in the first place. What is that? What's happening there? Why are people waking up in the morning and becoming addicted to drugs? What's driving this need to escape an underlying pain? What's causing the underlying pain? And Iceland have taken an amazing approach, because Iceland have done something wondrous, which is, for me anyway, I see it as a parent, and they're after allowing parents that have much more of a role within the life of their child, because like for many parents out there, like they're having in current Ireland society anyway, like there's probably 2-parent families where both parents are having to work fucking a full-time job, where the kids are going to nannies and stuff like that. They might be staying with the in-laws or whoever, another family member or something like that, and they're barely getting any time with the parents because the parents are so fucking overworked. Well, over in Iceland, what do? They're doing actually education courses to educate parents as to the importance of spending time with your kids, and not only providing these education courses through the schools and stuff like that, but they're also handing parents, vouchers which can only be spent in the local community within leisure resources. Resources such as swimming pools, maybe astroturf, tennis courts, whatever the thing might be. I think that they might even be able to be used as part of like extracurricular activities, local clubs and stuff like that, maybe dance classes. I think they can be extended to those things as well. But Iceland have done tremendous things, like, there you go, 280,000, throw it towards that. Let's start getting a scheme up and running in Ireland that allows parents, and let's not even fucking means test it. Let's not even go there. Every parent's kind of like the children's allowance, but it's like more it's more specific. It can only be spent, at your local leisure centre, just like fucking it's a swimming voucher, whatever it is, a swimming voucher. Go on out to this local thing, go for a swim there with your kids. Whatever it might be in the local community, go on down for a game of bowling there with your kids. Get on down to Leisureplex there, hand in your voucher, and you're allowed an hour, but you have to be with your kids. Whatever the case may be, I don't know. Like, but you need these things, because I believe if we do things like Iceland, because Iceland have done some crazy stuff in terms of turning their addiction rates around, and they didn't even have to decriminalize drugs. They just fucking realized the importance of connection there, and enabling families to provide better care for the kids in the first place, maybe allowing then for more kids to grow up and not be experiencing so much what many kids in Ireland are experiencing today is like broken homes, parents fucking overworked, overstressed because of fucking bills coming in. We got, what are the bills these days? You get your fucking bin bill, you got your water bill, you got your house tax, you got the increase in fucking fuel taxes. These are stresses on people's lives. Forgive me if I want to smoke a joint to de-stress because of the fucking the pressures put on me in life, But 2.8 million worth of cannabis after being seized and it's going to be destroyed up there. What a crying shame that the Irish economy was not provided an opportunity, to benefit off of that. All because of ideologically driven politicians who believe, that we can achieve through fucking terror. It's a reign of terror on the drug user, punitive damages, the threat of imprisonment, that we're going to deter people from drug use. They're never going to deter people from drug use. People are just going to hide. And that's not good when it comes to reducing harms associated with drug use if your drug users are harming, especially the problematic drug users. But anyway, again, as I said, going to be touching off of a couple of headlines there on fear. Because the Irish public, as I said, there's people out there living in fear because of this, but it doesn't deter their drug use. They just hide it. They try to hide it at least, and some people unsuccessfully so. The first story is of a mechanic apprentice who was in court there recently, and this apprentice mechanic was fined after hiding drugs in his pants after being approached by the guards. So the guards approached this individual, the apprentice mechanic, and they found him in possession of some cannabis that he had stuffed down his pants. It doesn't say how much the cannabis was actually. Yeah, it doesn't say how much the cannabis was actually worth in the story, but the individual got fined €500, and so as a result of that, also received a conviction, I would imagine. This individual was 19 years of age. He's an apprentice mechanic. He's from above there in the Dublin area. I'm not going to mention a name or where he's from, but it says there he pleaded guilty to obstructing Gardaí, which that's a nasty old charge to get as well. Obstructing Gardaí, it sounds worse than what it is, and possessing of drugs on the February. And again, possession of drugs sounds kind of worse than it is too. You know what I mean? Could have been caught with a 50 fucking bag, like in his possession of drugs. Sounds so bad. He was caught with like 3 grams of cannabis. Doesn't sound so bad. Possession of drugs. No, it sounds shocking. The court hired Gardaí were on patrol at Chapel Street just before 10:30 when they observed Tierney reaching into his... I said the guy's surname, my bad. Reaching into his jacket pocket and putting something into his trousers. As Gardaí approached, he again took something from his jacket and attempted to discard it. He was arrested and conveyed to the Balbriggan Garda station where he was searched and found in possession of a quantity of cannabis, quantity of which was not mentioned, but he got caught with a quantity. The defence solicitor said at the time that he had been dabbling in drugs. He had stopped for some months, but he had started again. The accused had not smoked cannabis since the incident and is aware that a third conviction for drugs possession could lead to incarceration. The solicitor added that the individual is currently carrying out an apprenticeship and is hoping to qualify as a mechanic. The judge saw fit anyway to convict the teenager, the 19-year-old, and imposed a €500 fine. That's quite a sizable fine. Like, the guy has got to give up, like, he's an apprentice mechanic. What's an apprentice mechanic get, guys? Like, what, €300-400? Like, what's an apprentice mechanic get? And I couldn't imagine that the guy is getting more than €400. So he's having to give up more than a week of his life in order to pay back this fine. Like, okay, he doesn't have to go to prison, but still, like, he used to work 5 days of his life to get a wage packet, which he's going to have to hand over. Like, that's just unacceptable. Right? That's criminal again. The guy's actions, like, what is it? A fucking obstructing Gardaí. The guy was terrified. He was terrified because he knows he's got a conviction, and he knows that possibly, like, that he could be sent to prison if the judge was enough of a CONT to him. You know? I was terrified. Of course he's going to hide the drugs. Like, you're going to give the guy, like, for being in fear of his life, you know, obstructing Gardaí. Fucking stuck a bag of weed down his pants, like, leave the guy off, like. Bad enough you're giving him a €500 fine, like, but he gets conviction then for them as well. So bad for him anyway. That's above there in Dublin, but it doesn't stop there. The fear and intimidation on individuals, it doesn't stop there, because another 21-year-old above in Dublin was so unfair when approached by the cops. He also, you know, stuck some cannabis down into his jocks. This is a 21-year-old man who I'll do my best not to name. Was caught with more than €300 worth of cannabis that he had stuffed down his underpants, and he was given a 4-month suspended sentence. Think about that. 4 months for €300 worth of cannabis. Suspended. Okay, suspended, yes. But 4 months, like, it's €80,000 a year to lock a prisoner up here on average in Ireland. So 4 months. So that's a third of that. Like, what's a third of 80,000? Top of my head, like, just not far off 25,000. So 25,000, the judge has hanging over his head, at least the state would expected to be incurring that expense. Should that guy be locked up for his €300 worth of cannabis? It's terrible, though. So the district court heard that the defendant attempted to flee a back garden and obstructed Gardaí while they were trying to execute a bench warrant. So there's a bench warrant over this guy, and he was bunking. They found €360 worth of cannabis in his underwear, and during the course of the search, they also found €120 in cash, and 2 mobile phones were also found. He's definitely a drug dealer. The individual has a number of convictions, including possession of drugs and the production of an article during the course of the dispute. However, none of them predate this incident, the Garda added. The defence solicitor said that this was the very first offence the accused was charged with, though he was forced to face subsequent charges since then. She said that he had dabbled with cannabis for a short amount of time and got into trouble as a result. However, he no longer smokes cannabis and has a good job working in computers, has gotten his life back on track, because cannabis really just derails your life. And the prohibition of cannabis, sure, that's just perfect, isn't it? It does nothing bad to people. But it goes on to say that it wasn't a case that he was selling the drug on the street, but rather he was providing them to a small amount of people, she added. The judge said that she would take account of his guilty plea and imposed a 4-month sentence, but suspended this for 9 months in relation to the possession of drugs for sale and supply charge. She imposed a fine of €250 possession of drugs and said that she would take the other matter into consideration. So again, this guy has 4 months hanging over his head for 9 months. Like, the anxiety it's going to cause this individual, and to be going in there, to towing the line, I'm getting my life back on track, I've kicked the cannabis now, and it was really holding me back now, and I got a job and it's done great. Like, it's like such bullshit. Like, come on, like, the only thing keeping your life off of track by was the fact that cannabis was illegal, and the fact you have to interact with, like, criminals, and maybe you were lured by the potential of being a drug dealer for some time. Maybe if cannabis wasn't illegal, that you wouldn't have been drawn into that, and you might have been working within the cannabis computer fucking scene, because there's big things happening there in the cannabis computer scenes in terms of, like, software and stuff like that for cannabis growers and cannabis retailers, and even in terms of cannabis clinics and for patients and stuff like that. Oh, fucking sky's the limit. All being held back, all because of prohibition, cannabis prohibition. That's those 2 stories done and dusted, out of the way. What's everybody saying out there? Sorry guys, I've been eluding the hot box. Just wanting to get through some of those articles. Hi and Homegrown, what's happening, Mr. Mackey? It's been a while there since I've been over on with yourselves, but I'll be certainly joining the show there now shortly. As I see, that the old competition will be underway not too soon. not too soon. Speaking of spending time with my kids, I gotta walk my dog. Nice. Gotta walk my dog too, actually. Gonna blaze up an old bowl there, actually, or get a bowl ready. 5 minutes away there. Silence. I hate silence when silence happens. 5 minutes is the next 4:20 over in Cape Verde. That will mean that we've been streaming for just close to 2 hours now. I've gotten a lot of the 420 news headlines done that I wanted to cover, but I do have a couple of more, and I think one or two of them might be positive. Just looking at my notes there now as to what's coming up. No, they're not. It's all court stuff. Alright, guys. Thank God for this upcoming ball. John Phantom, anyone remember a magazine called Puritan? Sounds familiar. Can't say that I've read it. Doesn't sound like something I would read unless it's like about like smoking pure cannabis, like not mixing with tobacco. Then maybe it might be a magazine that I'd be interested in. Because I'm a bit of a Puritan when it comes to my cannabis consumption, you know? Hey! What? Hey! Gotta stop laughing at my own jokes. Cannabis Activist Alliance says, thank yous for all the subs. We're beyond 25 now. Excellent stuff, guys. Great stuff. Keep those subs coming to the Cannabis Activist Alliance over on YouTube, guys, if you haven't already done so. John Feenan says, good scouting for guerrilla weather at Mackie. Our comments, Diagolan, jockstrap kush. It's nothing worse, isn't it? That's something I always worry about, you know. It's like, when you get a bag of weed off of somebody, going back years ago when I used to be getting bags of weed and stuff like that, or even actually, to be honest, when I was dealing myself, there was times I was dealing myself and like fucking I gave a couple of people jockstrap kush. Do you know, you just throw it fucking into the just into the jocks because, you know, you might have a tight pair of fucking boxers on you, you know, that the leg of them is reliable and the bag of weed won't slip down the leg of your pants, so you just chuck it into your jocks when you're driving from A to B. You take it out before you get out of the car and you hand it to the dude, like, but like, and that dude is like fucking touching your cock and balls. It's like as bad as fucking bra money. That's worse than bra money, isn't it? Surely fucking jockstrap kush is way worse than, I don't know what the term is for bra money, but you know, that's titty nuts. I can remember that before, like I was working in McDonald's years and years ago, like, and this big, and it's always a big hefty one too, like, you know. I'm not going to say which community she was from, but like just big hefty one. She came out and fucking took out like and it wasn't just a one note, like it was a bundle of notes, like. And she handed me the one that was fucking making skin contact, and the thing was warm, and I don't know, it was even moist. I was just like, get that shit into the cash register. Oh, it was such a bad experience. I still remember it today. I was like 16 at the time working at McDonald's. Because weren't even paying us a full wage. I found them. You would remember the 1970s magazine Puritan. Think about what would be most offence without being a legal subject to Puritans. It could be about. Content NL says, do you think many people who support ending the war on drugs are afraid to share their opinions on social media or even like a post or a channel out of fear? I don't think it. I know it. Content NL. I know people who have messaged me, who have emailed me and said like that they can't like my posts, like my videos, or even like my Facebook or Facebook page. It was because, you know, they're friends with their supervisor, and it might bring unwanted attention to them and their job, and, you know, they might be expecting them to do a random drug test there because of your recent liking of Martin's World. So yeah, I don't think it. I know it. There's people out there, they aren't fair of even simply just liking a Facebook page, but their fear doesn't stop them from consuming that. That's for sure. 10 seconds, guys. Here we go again. I'll blaze this one with you. Soundboard's getting an awful use today. I want to get high. So high. Can't help but think of that song that hits on the bong when you're taking a hit from the bong, like. Today's civil disobedience has been brought to you by a very kind-hearted listener of the show. If you're out there, man, you know who you are. As I said, I don't want to be bringing any unwanted attention to you, just in case you don't want me to be mentioned. I didn't ask if it was okay to be giving you a thanks, but thanks. Oh, such tasty stuff. ZN says, yeah, new laws that Facebook content can be used against you in court. Not only Facebook content, but YouTube content. But is that not the case for your man in fucking Scotland and he got his dog doing the fucking Nazi salute? Like, as distasteful as that can be, it's quite funny too, like. Like, I'm not saying, that doesn't mean I like fucking Hitler or some shit, like, but a dog doing a Nazi salute is quite funny. Like, it's distasteful. It is distasteful, like, because like, you shouldn't be doing a fucking Nazi salute, but at the same time, like, you could just say it's the Fine Gael salute, wasn't it? The Fine Gael? The blue shirts? Weren't they fucking saluting the same way? They just didn't do this. They just did that. They did the Heil. The Heil. So yeah, affect the blue shirts. That's what the dog wasn't doing fucking the Hitler salute. He was doing the blue shirt salute. Again, anybody outside of Ireland, you might not know what Fine Gael or blue shirts are. Political party here in Ireland who are not very much like, and certainly not supporters of cannabis legalization. That's for sure. I can't say I've actually had hiccups and coughing, Mr. John Phantom. That would be an experience actually, to be like in I don't know, mid hiccup and cough or mid cough and hiccup. That'd be a weird one. Oh. FD1, a big FD1. You like that, John? Yeah, she was, though, in fairness. Like, she was a big busty lady. Not against that. Like, I'm not saying anything derogatory there at all. She was a fine sized woman. Not Bush Kush. Nice. That's another great name. Not Bush Kush. Or simply cheese. That's true as well, Zian. Knob cheese. That is. Or dahi, gooch haze. Ah, guys, I love it. Many of you are very familiar with that experience. So I've been handed over a warm bag of weed and just been like, I hope that's warm for being in his pocket and not in his jocks. Yeah, Teresa saying way worse. Sorry for the old jockstrap kush. Hunter says brown money is the only time some people will get close to a breast in their lives. Whatever floats their boat, I guess. Content NL says love smelling that brown money. Oh, you guys. ZN says, yeah, we read that actually, the laws on Facebook over in the UK. Even protesting in the UK is becoming problematic, isn't it? I've heard that, man. The UK is getting a bit Orwellian. Yeah, is that the word? Yeah, Orwell, George. Yeah, 1982. Or 1984? Jeez, 1982. No, 1984. Yeah, George Orwell, 1984. Jeez, 1982. What a sausage, Martin. Sea green tea is the you. She was at the jockstrap kush part, I'd say. Right, let's drive on, guys. As we have a couple other headlines there to touch off of before we finish up today's 420 news. As we're just over 2 hours in, and we're almost there. We only have like 2 or 3 more there to touch off of. But there was a recent seizure here made in Cork on top of the 2.8 million worth of cannabis that was seized there in Rosslare. More recently here in Cork, there was €60,000 worth of cannabis seized from a car in the city centre. This involved a lady, a woman who was arrested and detained at the Mayfield Garda station and brought to court. I'm not too sure what happened there at the court case yet, whether the woman was released on bail or whether she's continuing to be held in custody. But she was caught with €60,000 worth of cannabis following a raid or a stop and search that happened as part of Operation Tara, which you all know is targeting drugs in Irish society. €60,000 worth of cannabis, that's 3 kilos worth of cannabis. So again, as Neil Wood said, that this done very little to stop the supply of drugs. Like he's seen just there, I'm here in Cork. I can still get cannabis, no problem at all. Don't even have to ask for it. In fairness, like it just arrived. but in fairness, the person in question knew that I was after running low. What a hero. It says here the driver, the driver of the vehicle, a woman aged in her late 30s, was arrested and conveyed to the Mayfield Guard Station, where she was detained under Section 2 of the Criminal Justice Drug Trafficking Act. Again, a waste of resources. 60 grand, local community, take 10% there, that's 6 grand. What's the local GA club going to be able to do with 6 grand? That's a fucking whole lot of balls they're going to be able to buy. Do you know what I mean? That's a whole lot of jerseys, That's just a whole load of activities they can use to entice the local community to come up and get the kids involved in the sport, Tremendous things can be done in the local community with 6 grand. How much money was actually spent on this? Again, we touched off of Operation Tara. Operation Tara is costing Irish taxpayers in €14 million a year. 14 million euro a year? What's that? Just get out my calculator, just for the crack. 14 million divided by 365. I think we've done this before. So it's costing the taxpayer €38,000 a year. Over €38,000 a day. A day, Operation Tara. So if this operation took them 24 hours, or an hour, let's say this took them an hour to carry out, that cost the taxpayer €1,500. Just let's say €1,600. It's closer to 16. It's 1598. €1,600 cost the taxpayer just for that hour alone of Operation Tara to take away 6 grand from the local community that could have been generated if we sold that cannabis at a 10% tax. Crazy stuff like this war on drugs. And it doesn't stop there then either, like for Cork. Because there was another seizure here that was made, and I meant to touch off of this earlier actually after Neil Wood's story, but we get to it now. 2 men arrested following a drug search at Kent Station. So I wanted to touch off of this when we were talking to Neil Woods, because we were kind of in the area of heroin and other drug use. But I think this is a common enough occurrence here now in Cork at this stage. I can say it's common enough because it's not the first time and it's not the second time I've read a story like this. Probably not the third either. This is a familiar story that happens where people get caught at the train station bringing drugs down into the city. So I'm not too sure what the story is there or how the guards operate. But if the Dublin to Cork train is kind of known as a bit of a drug corridor anyway. But again, what's going on with the guards that they're letting a drug courier get on the train in the first place above Dublin? Why isn't the drug courier being intercepted at the train station before he gets on the train? Like, well, what happens there? Like, if the drug courier somewhere along the lines, gets off, there's a lot of problems I could see arising there. I don't understand why the guards, if they're operating on an intelligence-led operation, waits for the individual to get to Cork. Why don't intercept the individual above at the Dublin train station? And again, it's a numbers game, I think, is because they're trying to keep the old fucking numbers high down for the Cork guards. The Cork guards want to get their numbers in terms of the amount of drugs seized, the amount of people arrested for the crime of drugs, drug dealing, drug trafficking, and all of that stuff. So again, there's a bit of a kind of what's the opposite to NIMBYism? In my backyard, I want it in my backyard. Do you know what I mean? I don't want this shit to be happening up there. I need it all for myself. That the cops are kind of doing this stuff, operating in that way. But again, not only are they operating in that kind of way, but I would imagine because of the regular occurrence of these kind of things, not too regular, it's not every month that this is happening, but this is kind of once every few months that this kind of a seizure is happening at the local train station, where individuals are being stopped and caught with significant amount of drugs, So it's like, it's never into the hundreds of thousands, but it's always like, it's a significant amount, like 60 grand here. I think, maybe just over 100 grand might have been the biggest one I seen out of Kent Station. I think it was 120 grand's worth of heroin. But again, to just touch off of a story that I put up on the Martin's World thing there, it was one that was floating around there for not too long. Not too long ago. But the news that came to light, the Gardaí are being investigated for working with organised crime gangs in Ireland. But is anyone actually surprised? That was the headline I put out at the time. But that's my suspicion. I think there's something stinks about this. I think that there's a potential here that these maybe are corrupt guards, potentially. I'm just saying, fucking put on the conspiracy theorist hat for a second, But in light of the recent news there that Gardaí are being investigated for organised crimes, it really goes to show how infallible these people are. Like that they're not, or how not infallible that they are. Do you know, that they are corruptible. Do you know, that these aren't perfect individuals. These people are just human like us too. And if you're working for an organised crime gang, you know, wouldn't it be beneficial if that organised crime gang threw you a bone every now and again? If you were a local detective, turning a blind eye to the drug couriers coming down, knowing that, you know, at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, whatever the period might be, that you kind of agree with you and the organised crime gang as a guard, that they will throw you fucking a patsy. You know, your man coming down there, he's 60 grand, he's only a patsy, he's just a decoy, you know. Meanwhile, like, how many people came down with millions of euros worth of cannabis, or not cannabis, heroin, or other drugs, you know, could have been cannabis as well. But there's more of a pat in the back when you take heroin off of the street for the guards, in fairness. So there's more of a bonus there if it is heroin that they're seizing and not cannabis for a change. Because again, there's a stigma there. Even drug users themselves do it. I've seen cannabis users themselves being like, thank God they're after getting heroin off the street now and it's not the cannabis. I was like, can't be doing that, guys. Like, drug wars, like, it's not good for them, it's not good for us, it helps nobody. I've seen it happen, and that's why I kind of gave a little effort there just to try to destigmatize other drug users as well, but in our own community here too, because I've kind of witnessed it once or twice as well from people within our own community here, and I pass no bad judgment against you. We've been conditioned to think that way. I'm just trying to uncondition us, trying to condition us to think in a different way, to try to be a bit more compassionate to other drug users and to maybe think about what drives their need for that drug, much like your need for whatever drug it is that you like, you know, whether it be coffee, sugar, cannabis, alcohol, wine, I don't know. Yeah. So that's my suspicion. I think something stinks about that. I think that maybe that is a setup, you know, that the individual who got caught with that, it might have been a local addict who was told, you know, hey, go on up there to Dublin, collect a package and come back down and we'll give you, you know, fucking a couple of grand, you know, you get 4 grand there for yourself into that. It's like, 4 grand? Decent, boy. Not a bother, I'll go do that now, boy. You know, and is not none the wiser, like, not realising that the guy he's going doing the job for actually has a deal with the local cops struck up. And he's going to be fucking going, you know, the one going to court when he comes down. Messed up, like. It really is a messed up situation. And then to finish off with one final one, a fibromyalgia patient found himself in front of the courts there recently, and this was a comment that came out of the courts and it made its way into the headlines, and that this was a comment made by the defence solicitor, saying that the only way that this individual can walk is by taking cannabis. And this is a case of a 32-year-old man mentioned in the article who suffers with fibromyalgia. Now, he told the judge initially that he suffers with fibromyalgia, and the judge, I don't think she believed him. And she made the man come back with a doctor's report, and which he did, and he came back with the doctor's report. And despite having the doctor's report, the judge still saw fit to give the man a conviction and a €250 fine. Now, in saying that, the guy already had past convictions for drug charges, and apparently other charges as well. But again, that's none of my business. I'm just looking at the drugs thing. Again, a fibromyalgia patient being criminalised in Ireland for being in possession of what was €200 worth of cannabis. So €200 worth of cannabis, €20 a gram, that's 10 grams of cannabis that this man got caught with, and he got a €250 fine for that. So as a patient, he was able to provide evidence of his conditions, the fact that he suffers with fibromyalgia, was diagnosed with it at the age of 10, and cannabis has been beneficial, so beneficial that it's the only thing that allows him to be able to walk. Now, again, I've done a bit of digging on this individual, and other court cases came up with this individual's name and similar age, similar number of kids. And again, it's none of my business of that stuff, so I'm not going to talk about that. But the only reason I mention that is because the cops have seized €2,000, which was also found as part of this raid. So, popped up this there. So this one. Sergeant J.J. Kirby told the court that during this search of the house, so this guy's house got raided. Again, it was probably in relation to the other court case that I'd read about, if it is that individual. And €200 worth of cannabis was found along with €2,000 worth of cash. The judge is kind of saying that, like, the cash, yeah, you gotta go and fight for that now, because, you know, we're putting in our stake for it. We think it's the proceeds of crime, and this guy's kind of got to prove now that it's not the proceeds of crime. Again, I'm not too sure if it is the individual, but the other case that I came across, it was a money laundering case involving substantial sums of monies into the hundreds of thousands. Nothing nefarious, like no fucking pedophilia or any like murder or rape or any shit like that. It was money laundering. Not to say that that's any better, like, but it's like, it's money laundering. It's like he's not out there beating people up and shit, or at least not. I hope not. But again, as I said, that's none of my business. Fibromyalgia patient, he should be provided legal access to cannabis. This other criminal shit, that's none of my business. I don't really care. This guy's a patient. I want to represent him as a patient. So if you're out there, dude, and if you want to reach out to me, and if you want to talk about this, get in touch. I'd be very much interested in hearing from you. But the judge, anyway, said that or the barrister representing the individual said that the client is suffering from fibromyalgia was using cannabis medicinally, although illegally. She said her client claimed that the only way he can walk is by taking cannabis, and he was pleading guilty to possession of the drugs. That was his problem. He pleaded guilty. Should have pleaded not guilty. I would plead not fucking guilty anyway, just because my right to use cannabis as a medicine, especially if I suffer with fibromyalgia and it's the only thing that allows me to walk. My right to be able to walk, and this plant allows me to do it, and how dare you take that away from me? That's what I'd be saying to that judge, but as I said, the guy probably has other things going there. But the judge, Patricia Cronin, noted a medical report. As I said, she didn't believe him. He had to provide it. And fined him on €250. So again, convicted him. So if you get a fine, you get a conviction as well. So you got conviction on the possession of cannabis. So she granted a destruction order for the cannabis and noted the cash had been seized along with the drugs. And she advised Mr. Sugar. It's not actually. That's the solicitor's name. Damn it! I thought I was after using the guy's name, and it's actually the solicitor, the barrister. They advised the barrister that it would be necessary for the Police Property Act application to be brought in order to resolve the matter in regards to the cash. There you go. €250 fine for fibromyalgia patient in Ireland. Again, dire needs for cannabis reform in Ireland. We've a man up there for €2 worth of cannabis, man up there for €200 worth of cannabis. Doesn't matter. Nobody should be in court for any amount of cannabis. Cannabis should not be controlled by organised crime gangs. Should be sold by local reputable retailers. It should be sold by local passionate cannabis growers. You know, God damn this fucking prohibition of cannabis and all the shit it brings this world. So that is it, guys. 2 hours of 420 news here from Martin's World. Hopefully you all enjoyed that. Sorry about the waffling at the earlier part of the show. I had fun engaging with you in the hot box anyway. I was enjoying a little back and forth there. Apologies for missing a lot of what's going on in the hot box as the show goes on. As I said, it would have been fucking decent if I put it in for 2 places here in Cork, and I wasn't successful in getting either of them. One of them actually got taken off the market and put up for more money actually afterwards. But this Cannabis Activist Hub, this podcast studio that I was trying to get up and running, that would be fucking epic. Imagine if at 4:20 we could open up the door and just bring in a load of locals, even people who wanted to travel down just to witness the show happen live. You could sit in the audience. We could have a live audience. It could be like the fucking late show, but it's just the high show. That'd be cool. My own fucking little studio. I won't have to wear masks like the people in the late audience either, unless it's what you want to do. Because your mask is a political statement and it's covered with cannabis leaves or says Cannabis Reform Ireland or something. No problem. Sorry, we pack up another bowl of hash and we dive into the hot box with you guys for a bit before we say goodbye. So yeah, and Boris is getting scared of revolt. Yeah, Boris is things are not looking good over there for him, alright. A lot of trouble over his party, wasn't he? Probably other shit going on over there in the UK as well that I'm just missing out on, but forgive me. Hunter says, no, please don't finish the news till my oil's done. You're keeping me from checking it every 5 minutes. Oh, sorry. Sweaty ears. If it's burned, I'm going to cry. Oh no, Hunter. Hopefully it's not, man. John Finnegan scaring him. John, you're a joker, well, leave him alone. Others out there just looking through what's happening. Go What's that say? Likely a guy who had a drug that, yeah. Yeah, quite possibly, you know what I mean? Guy owes your money, you send him up the country to collect drugs for you because, you know what I mean? Hey, fuck you, you owed me money and you thought you were able to get away with not paying me. You learn. Rat me and I break your neck. Yeah, exactly, Rashers, man. Fucking joke. €2 or €200 or €2 million, man. I don't think any of it should be a crime. I think, you know, the government need to get their heads out of their arse now when it comes to the cannabis industry or the cannabis community. Because we're here to stay. We're going nowhere, like, despite your prohibition on our existence. So just get over it now and just regulate our community, the provision of our plant. Allow us to grow our own, allow us to organize and to assemble, you know, peacefully and freely of intimidation, of being terrorized because of your prohibition. It's ridiculous, like. And I'm not justifying the 2.8 million. I'm just saying that it shouldn't be illegal. I'm just saying that there should be a local retailer who should be able to buy in, if they've got the money, €2.8 million worth of cannabis from a local grower, if they're able to grow that much cannabis, you know. Rasher says, I nearly think about moving, 100%. Ah, yeah. If I could, I would. It's a big move for myself to get the whole family up and out of here. Also, we got other family here as well, so it's easier said than done. But to be honest, I've contemplated it. I've looked at Australia actually myself, to be very honest, as Australia has got several cannabis medical cannabis companies over there set up in the production of cannabis. So I have reached out to one or two of them in the past, just introduced myself, shown my interest in their company, and asking them if they could tell me more about it. And I've not heard back from them, because I always introduced myself as a cannabis activist here in Ireland. So probably not the best way to go. I'm a cannabis activist and a herbal scientist here in Ireland. They're like, a herbal fucking scientist? What's that? But yeah. DB Woodcraft says, still only 2 likes. 2 likes on what? The live stream? What? No way. Alright, guys, come on. Oh no, I'm seeing 33 likes. Never mind. This said I checked there. I wasn't too sure. There it is. 33 likes. Come on, guys. Yeah, legends. Only 20 of you watching as well, so that's good to see. There was like 40 of you a while ago. Social Pirate, Keyboard Warrior, Mom and Pop Market all the way. Yep, there you go, guys. Mom and Pop Market. I'm all for the local homegrown industry too. I think local growers, locally produced, high quality, organically grown cannabis, not costing the world, you know, having to ship it all across the world, you know, growing it at peak seasons as well, being able to utilize the outdoor environment and able to maximize your yields then as well, because, you know, you're proud of your cannabis plant and you don't need to hide it anymore from your neighbor because, you know, you're not worried about them calling the cops on you anymore. That would be great, wouldn't it? I'll smoke to that, actually. So last plays up here. Get your comments in, guys, and we'll start signing off in the next couple of seconds. Content, and I love this. Yeah, we read those earlier. Just flicking through, make sure we didn't miss anybody. DB, I believe you, man. I believe you. YouTube can be a bit problematic at times. Maybe because you didn't refresh or something like that, or whatever. I'm not too sure. Oh, yummy. Oh, very nice. Yeah, Rashers says there, any sign of new meds? Here we go to some new meds. Getting green screened out. Courtesy of an anonymous listener out there. who's been very kind and generous and posting that down to me. Didn't ask for it at all, but it arrived. But it was highly appreciated. So apparently one of these buds came from Phoenix Park above at the 423 event. The other one was grown somewhere in Ireland, outdoors, I believe too. I think this individual said. Then the individual also sent down some fucking nice high quality hash too, like savage stuff. Make myself bigger there for a while. There we go. Look at that hash. Oh, I've just been peeling it off like this. Just like breaks so easily. You know, you like break a little piece off, and it's like a little piece there, little dab. Stick back on for a minute. Rash says just getting a jet of blueberry together. Nice and enjoy that, man. Nice, and I certainly enjoyed that hit of hash there again. As I say, it's so sweet actually. Like there's a lovely aftertaste off it, whatever it is. Can't place it. Like it's not like the last hash I got off this person. Oh, it's so sweet, so smooth as well. It's really nice. Yeah, hopefully you're feeling better. Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better. As I said, Rasher, I don't know if you might have missed that earlier on in the show. I kind of gave people a bit of an update as to the situation there with my meds and what was going on. Just in case you ever kicked the bucket one of the days because of seizures. At least you all knew what was going on, and you know the ups and downs of fucking being a medical cannabis patient in Ireland, being a person diagnosed with epilepsy, trying to get access to cannabis as a medicine to treat their seizures. You know, be an unfortunate one if I was to kick the bucket before getting access to it, but yeah, hopefully, you know, if I can touch wood. But yeah, feeling much better. No more mood swings. Been feeling very good, very stable mood. That's the important thing, you know. I'm not too high, not too low. Nice and stable. Quite happy, you know. Things aren't fucking tipping me over the edge, you know. So easily, you know. There's no flash anger. There's no wild mood swings. So there's no thoughts of suicide either since stopping them. And to be fair, like, you know, that was quite a quick effect. It was quite noticeable, the shift from like being a couple of weeks of day in, day out, constant fucking suffering because of my mental health, deteriorating because of the pills they had me on. The pills were rotting my brain effectively, you know, they were just rotting my mental health. And as soon as I stopped them, things started healing, things started getting better really quickly, like, you know. 5 days now, you know, and yeah, touch them wood, you know, that I'm not jinxing myself, you know, or anything like that, but yeah, long may it continue. I will indeed, Rashers, man, forever strong. I will admit there was moments of weakness there over the last couple of weeks, but I would say that probably a lot of that was induced by the medication that they had me on. I reckon the stuff was just melting my brain a little bit and just making me a bit pinky-ponky. But yeah, as I said, feeling much better now, happily to say. Right, so guys, to everybody out there, you're all absolute legends. I love each and every one of you. But I am going to have to say goodbye. At some stage, we are going to have to say it, you know. Goodbye, good friends, goodbye. Who watches Bear in the Blue House? I can't wait until Elijah gets into that. I was watching Barney there as well recently. Don't get me started now. He's singing all the songs. He was down in the sauna after hanging out with Elijah there one day, and I was like, what was the song? I'm flying in an airplane, looking out the window, watching the clouds go by. And so the people in the sauna are like, what's this fucking fella humming? Oh, yes, love all those kids shows. Can't wait to watch them all again. Scatness says, man, fuck, I just spilled my trim leaves all over the container bin in an apartment. Oh no. Oh no. I hope they're not the sugar trim leaves. I hope they're just the shade leaves, yeah? Because if they're the sugar shake leaves, like, you know, they're going to be a bit smelly. Yeah, sing the Barney tune. I love you, you love me. We're a happy cannabis family. There we go. That's the Martin's World edition. So we leave you on that one, guys. Laughs and smiles, yeah? Leave it on a high note. Everybody's happy. Great stuff. Zombie, Sean, Di, Rashers, DB, Hunter, Scanus, everybody else out there, guys, you all know who you are. Too many of you to name and to think of. You're all absolute heroes. Love you all. See you this time next week, guys. 4:20 news again next Wednesday. So keep her lit, guys. Stay blazed. Stay safe. Toodaloo.